if I sit here, people are gonna be like, "Can you give me the Wi-Fi password?" I get that every 5 minutes. So if we do that, we go here. So otherwise, you'll hear somebody talking to us. You know. See you there?
All right. I'll call you if I need you.
Or text me.
Yes, I will. That cost that? I got it so
Okay, yes, okay. All right. Did you guys find an easel for it?
Yeah, there's an easel. The PIO has it.
How you doing?
Still waiting for that's the nightmare. It's not just the you may have to have her transfer. No, they're blood count is they don't like the scans that and if they operate, it won't heal and then she'll have leakage. And then it'll be one operation after. So she's on a 48-hour watch.
Do you know what she can have next time? In August?
She's gonna, yeah, that's what she's gonna do. That's what she, yeah.
Let me get her an agenda.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Scouts, yeah. Troop 119. We'd like to call to order this meeting for May 16th, Tuesday, May 16th, 2017, our regular City Commission meeting. I'll give everybody a moment to sit down before we do a roll call. Also, as a reminder, if everyone could please turn off your cell phones or put them on silence, I'd appreciate it. Especially the media. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle. Here. Commissioner Drosky. Here. Commissioner Parnes.
Here.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Here.
Mayor Gantz.
Here. If everyone could please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. At this moment, I'd like Eagle Scout Troop 119, please to stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time, I'd like the approval of the City Commission meeting minutes for May 2nd, 2017.
Motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Everyone's all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Not seeing any nays. Passed unanimously, 5-0. Acknowledgement of our city board minutes for the Marine Advisory Board meeting minutes for February 16th, 2017, and the Planning and Zoning Board meeting minutes for April 6th, 2017, and our Planning and Zoning meeting minutes, yes, just for April 6th, 2017.
Make a motion to acknowledge those board meetings?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone, any nays? Not seeing any nays, it passed unanimously. Next, we'd like the approval of our City Commission meeting agenda. I believe we have 2 addendums to this agenda. 18A and general items number 25.
Make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight, including 18A and 25.
Commissioner Battle, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but at the last meeting, I was on the prevailing side of an issue with the Ocean Breeze variance, and I'd like for us to add to the agenda the motion to reconsider the Ocean Breeze variance item.
Would that be as a general item?
That would be a general item. Well, you could put it under quasi-judicial because it was, but it won't be treated as quasi-judicial tonight because motion for reconsideration is purely a motion to void the previous vote.
Is it all right if we keep it under general items for tonight since we won't be formalizing that?
So my motion includes the bringing up Ocean Breeze.
She's got a second on that.
I'll get a second for her.
We have a motion and a second then to approve the City Commission agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Not seeing any nays. Passed unanimously, 5-0. So first, we'd like to start with our presentations. And do we have State Representative Patricia Hawkins-Williams here tonight? Does not look like she's here right now. We might have to push her down the agenda because we were expecting a legislative update from our state representative, but she may arrive a little bit later. What we have next is our proclamation in honor of Haitian Flag Day. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring up two gentlemen to come up to talk about this a little bit before I tell you who they are and explain a little bit about them. Essentially, going out in the public and talking to people in our community, we realize that one of the things that's very important with the large Haitian community that we have in this city is they don't feel that they're a part of this city. And Haitian Flag Day is a very, very important day for the Haitian community, not just in our city, but in the region and actually everywhere within the world. So right now, I'd like to bring up Mr. Leslie Jacques. Leslie, you here? Leslie is the program director and on-air personality of the #1 24-hour Haitian radio station in South Florida. You can stay right there. I won't have you sit up here with me just yet.
He wants to know which way to face, so he face the audience.
I tell you what, turn around. Turn the microphone around. You can face the crowd. You can turn that mic. That should face there. Also, we have Mr. Patrick Jobin.
Patrick Jabouin. Is he here? I don't know.
Patrick is not here right now.
Not yet.
Leslie, if you could, please tell everyone the importance of Haitian Flag Day for the Haitian community.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. All right. That's better. Good afternoon. It is quite an honor to be here. This is my first really speaking before a city commission meeting. I haven't done that yet. And I was happy to be invited to introduce myself, to make it very short. I've been running and owning Radio Haiti for 20 years. In fact, last week. We started in 1997. And thank you. And it's been 20 years. And we call ourselves proudly the voice of the Haitian community. Whenever you need a message, any kind of message, to reach the community, people go through. We are right there, in fact. We are neighbors. I am right there in Boca Raton, right here, 1650, 5 minutes from here. That's where we are. When I heard about the decision made by the mayor to have a special proclamation for Haitian Flag Day, I can tell you, I even invited him at the radio station. So we had a long interview talking about that, because for us, it means so much. If you don't know anything about Haiti, I will be very brief, and I will tell you, Haiti is, regardless what people say, we are so proud of our heritage, so proud of what Haiti represents. We are the very first black, independent nation in the world. That's what we are. In 1804, January 1st, and we are a former French colony. That's what Haiti was, because as you all know, we had these European nations, they were everywhere, and Haiti was one of the islands that they owned. Because of our leader, especially Jean-Jacques Dessalines. They don't talk too much about him, because Jean-Jacques Dessalines was the one who decided to fight the French. Before the French, we had the Spanish. And one thing we have to know, and I will not be speaking here if I don't even say that. Sometimes when people look at the news, what they see about Haitians, the poorest nation in the hemisphere, if you don't know anything about Haiti, you probably will repeat that. But that is not true. And we have been one of the richest. We had gold. And everything that we had, all these resources, these colonies took them away from us. And they made Haiti what Haiti is today. I'm not blaming history, but I'm just bringing facts. Even today, according to so many people, we still have a lot of underground. We talk about even, you can't even find gas in Haiti, according to research. So it's not really what Haiti, the way they represent us. Because we did something that nobody ever done. In fact, in Savannah, I don't know if you know that, but in Savannah, the Haitians were there on the side of the Americans, fighting for the freedom of the United States of America. This is facts, people. You can research it. Research Haitians in Savannah. You will see that we were there alongside with the United States. Because right after July 1776, the great Declaration of Independence in the United States, few years later, a black nation, the first one. Maybe this is the price we are paying for being the first black. You know, I'm not saying that because I have differences in color, because I believe people are people and we love everybody. But we are the first to defy the colonists to become independent. But before that, on May 18, 1803, something happened. We needed a symbol of unity. This is what our flag represents. Red and blue. I won't go by the different colors because sometimes under certain government it was black and red. But since the overthrow of Baby Doc Duvalier in 1986, the flag is blue and red. But originally, when Dessalines created the flag, it was black and red. It was the meaning of these colors. It was to unite the mulattoes. As you understand, the blacks came from Africa to the land, meeting with the French. So they had kids. We had so many mulattoes. The country was kind of divided. And Dessalines wanted to unify the country. So we created the flag that was a symbol of unity. In fact, there is one thing we say in French, l'union fait la force, which means together we are stronger. So, in many occasions in Haitian history, whenever Haitians put their heads together, they are able to accomplish great, wonderful things. But sometimes I even wonder if they know the power of unity. Sometimes we tend to forget that. Sometimes we tend to act alone and to do things our way. This is why we're not prospering the way we should prosper. We should be farther. But I hope that one day the younger Haitians will understand the meaning of our flag. It means a lot to Haitians. May 18, you'll see the kids. I mean, with people like Wyclef Jean, you probably know him, a big Haitian American superstar. This is somebody who will never go anywhere without wearing a Haitian flag. So that helps a lot. The young Haitians, sometimes they were like ashamed of being Haitians. And then everybody come out now. It's a big thing now. Everyone want to say, hi, I'm Haitian. And that makes me feel so good because there was a time they were in hiding, even in the city of Deerfield Beach. They will not show up and say, I am Haitian. And right now, because of all that, of the accomplishments, and there is, we even, everywhere, in every step, in the city of Deerfield, in Miami, we had official elected, in Delray Beach. Haitians are coming out big time. And I will say one thing also as well. When you want to win an election, just think about the vote of Haitian community. Any election. Any. I have seen everybody. You know, I've been there for 20 years, so I've seen them. Even presidential election. Hillary didn't like the fact that Haitian voted Trump. For the very first time, Haitian voted Trump. The Republicans. Most of the time, Haitian go Democrats. You know, we have a lot of history. And if I start talking, I will never stop. And I know you have a long meeting. Let me say it's a pleasure. It's an honor. Mr. Mayor, we will remember that. The Haitian community will remember you are the very first in the city of Deerfield Beach to decide to recognize the day, Haitian Flag Day. To me and to all Haitians here, it's an honor to us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thanks.
Before we give the proclamation, we're just going to introduce one more gentleman. This young man is a Deerfield Beach High School senior, and I'm going to let the video speak for itself. This is a little news video that was done on him, and he's going to come up to accept the proclamation.
Imagine enrolling in high school as a 10th grader without even speaking English. Now fast forward to senior year and you've earned straight A's and a full academic college scholarship for engineering.
That's a meteoric rise, and it's why Benji is a student working at greatness. Here's Ariadzer with Swag on 6 from his alma mater. I know he's excited about this, Deerfield Beach High.
We have tangent of 70 degrees equals sine.
You're forgiven if you think Benji Floridor is a teacher. He's a senior at Deerfield Beach High School, showing his classmates how to measure the height of a rocket launch. And, oh, by the way, he just started speaking English 3 years ago.
I only had straight A's. Straight A's. No B's, no C's, straight A's.
Even though you didn't speak English when you got here?
Yeah, even though I didn't speak English, because I study everything.
From Haiti to the United States, a 10th grader adjusting to culture shock by immersing himself in his studies.
I started taking honors classes, AP classes, and everything.
The first teacher he had recognized right away that he had a genius-level kid in his class, a student who combines inspiration with perspiration.
Smart as he is, catch on the thing, but his work ethic is also one of the reasons that I think he's so successful, because he will not go into a test, he will not go into an exam without preparation.
See, here's the thing. Benji has worked extremely hard to earn a full academic scholarship to FAU, but he's not content to succeed on his own. He's trying to pull his classmates along too.
He always here to empower us, give us more strength to go forward.
And it's not just the Creole-speaking kids. Benji has a global vision to help his immigrant peers.
That is from my heart, because I know when I first came here, that was really hard for me. That was really harsh.
He's trying to learn Spanish, just to help the Spanish kids who doesn't speak English right.
Science is a universal language. Benji can reach everyone with rockets. He's already shooting for the moon while staying grounded in his community. In Deerfield Beach, Ariadzer, NBC6 News.
Thank you. Benji, are you here right now? Benji, please stand. Benji, if you don't mind coming up here for this proclamation, as you walk up here, I'll announce what it says. Whereas the Haitian Revolution was the first and most successful slave rebellion in the Western Hemisphere, it fueled the widespread movement for freedom throughout Latin America, the Caribbean and Africa, and served as an inspiration to African American leaders in the 1930s. The Haitian Revolution challenged the world's concept of colonial supremacy by being the first independent black nation in the world and the second independent nation in the Western Hemisphere. Whereas the Republic of Haiti declared itself a free and independent nation on January 1st, 1804, after 13 years of revolution and war in which over 350,000 people died, most of whom were slaves. The commemoration of the event was through the creation of a national flag which represents this intention to live as free men and women in the Western Hemisphere. The Haitian Constitution of 1987 officially recognized the Haitian flag as two equal-sized horizontal bands, a blue on top, which represents blacks and mixed-race people, and red one underneath, which symbolize their blood in the coat of arms of the Republic, placed in the center on a white squared portion that includes the country's coat of arms and the famous phrase, Benji, can you say it? La Union? Thank you. Meaning, through unity we find strength. And whereas the leaders of the first black revolution, the Western Hemisphere, wishing to consolidate their freedom from France, duly renamed the island of Santo Domingue to Haiti, as originally known by its indigenous inhabitants, thus creating a new republic free of the carnage of slavery. Now, therefore, I, Bill Gans, the mayor of the city of Deerfield Beach, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim May 18th as Haitian Flag Day celebration.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
This is important.
I'm sorry.
Yes, and you're proud. Hi, David.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Next, we have a proclamations for 7 incredible young men who achieved the highest recognition you can have in the American Boy Scouts. For our Eagle Scout recipients, there are 7 from Troop 119 over at St. Ambrose Church. And momentarily, I'm going to read a little passage about each one of them and have them come up to accept a certificate of appreciation from the city of Deerfield Beach. Justin Brecklin, can you please stand? Justin earned his first rank of scout in May 2010. He passed his board of review for Tenderfoot on November 2010, second class on March 2011, and first class scout on May 2011. He's been a member of Troops 229, 119, leadership serving as scribe, webmaster 2 times, historian 2 times, patrol leader 2 times, ASPL, and SPL. Justin's Eagle Scout project was the beautification of the basketball court and surrounding areas at Zion Lutheran Church. Justin has been accepted to and will attend West Virginia University in Morgantown, West Virginia, and will receive and pursue a political science major. Justin wants to pursue the legal or political field upon graduation. John Jao Farrow. John is a member of the senior class of Monarch High School, where he's a member of the Automotive Youth Educational Systems Automotive Service Program. He is dual enrolled at Atlantic Technical College. He has been a member of the troop leadership, serving as an instructor, quartermaster, troop guide, patrol leader, and junior assistant scoutmaster. Along the trail to Eagle, John has earned 21 merit badges. John saved troop road trip by fixing a trailer on the way to Camp Rainy Mountain. John, thank you. Kyle Kirk. Kyle's Eagle Scout project was a 500-foot brick paver walkway named Dalton's Way, located on the south side of the chapel at St. Ambrose Church. In March 2010, he became a member of Troop 119 and is an active participant in Troop 119 activities. On September 2012, Kyle was inducted to the Order of the Arrow, a Brotherhood of Honor campers, as an ordeal member. Along the trail to Eagle, Kyle has earned 41 merit badges. Thank you, Kyle. Tyler Kruger. In 2013, Tyler hiked the historical barefoot mailman hike of 35 miles. He has become a member of the troop leadership, serving as chaplain aide, patrol leader, librarian, quartermaster for Troop 119. Tyler is a huge Cleveland sports fan. Our sympathies are with you on that. And desires to be a sports broadcaster. Tyler graduated from Monarch High School in 2016, where he was a junior ROTC cadet and finished with the rank of 2nd lieutenant. Taylor Penn. During his time as in the troop, he has held the positions of librarian, patrol leader, ASPL, and SPL. Taylor's Eagle Scout project was a recording of audiobooks read by fellow scouts and leaders for the enjoyment of children with disabilities and classroom usage to support literacy. Taylor anticipates attending Florida Institute of Technology, majoring in aviation management along with the professional pilot program specialty, just like your dad, is that correct? Taylor's dream job is to become an airline pilot, following in his father's footsteps. Marcus Pratt. Marcus passed his board of review for Tenderfoot on September 2010, second class on May 2011, and first class scout in July 2012. Marcus's Eagle Scout project is a bell platform named St. Mary's Bell Tower, located at St. Mary's Episcopal Church on South Dixie Highway. He's been a member of the troop leadership, serving as a chaplain's aide, patrol leader 2 times, ASPL, SPL, and junior assistant scoutmaster twice. Marcus plans to attend Howard University and pursue a degree in criminal justice and legal studies. Thank you, sir. I had the pleasure of serving with your grandfather on the Code Enforcement Board many years ago. Zachary Siegel. Zach passed his board of review for Tenderfoot in August 2011, second class in October 2011, and first class scout on January 2012. Along the trail to Eagle, Zach, he earned 24 merit badges. Zach is a member of senior class of Monarch High School, and he is planning to attend college in the fall for computer science. Zach is the recipient of 2 awards, the kayaking patch and the snorkeling patch. Gentlemen and scout leaders, if I could have you come up here behind with us as we give you your proclamations. Oh, you want to have them down there instead? Justin? Congratulations. Congratulations. Bob? Tyler?
District 4 resident.
District 4 resident, that's right. Taylor?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Can you guys turn your shoulders a little bit and just really squeeze in nice and tight? Turn your side just a little bit. Squeeze in. Squeeze in. Yeah, just like that.
What's amazing about these young men is they decided to wait for each other to make sure they had their Eagle Scout ceremony all together. So it's a real tribute to camaraderie. Thank you, gentlemen. Donna DeFranza. We'll give everybody a few minutes to clear out here. Our next certificate of appreciation is a sincere thanks and appreciation to the Northeast Focal Point CASA Incorporated for over 30 years of sharing your time, your talents, and treasures to support the Northeast Focal Points. Can we have all the members of the Northeast Focal Point CASA please stand and come to the front? The Northeast Focal Point CASA, Inc. is a not-for-profit corporation consisting of dedicated volunteers that have done a tremendous job in advocating and raising funds for the services and programs at the Northeast Focal Point campus. By bringing the community together for various charity events like the Cuisine of the Region, food and wine tasting, and the Fashion Show Luncheon. They've also applied for numerous grants to expand and enhance the programming for the Senior Center, Alzheimer Daycare Center, and preschool, along with providing matching funds for brand new grant-funded buses for transportation accessibility for seniors to and from the center, to medical appointments, grocery shopping, and field trips. We'd like to thank the officers, Joan Gould, their president, Richard Sales, our first vice president. Dr. Andrew C. Isili, the second president. Elizabeth McGill, secretary. Joan Fink, treasurer. And Bill Garreau, special events. I'm going to list down the names of all of their directors, if you can hold your applause to the very end. Connie Caligaro, Mary Celentano, Karen Donaldson, Kathy Garreau, Shelley Greenberg, Marcia Milot, Terry Murchie, Patrick J. Murphy, Kenneth Nassar, Debbie Robbins, Donna Root, Antonio Santos, Jane Shaffron, Jessica Schuler, Nancy Smith, Irving Weiss, Rhea Weiss, Susan Williams, and our honorary member, Daniel R. Dodge. The Northeast Focal Point CASA's auxiliary members are Agnes Bingham, Cindy de Blasio, Linda Doyle, Dorothy Dunn, Helga Golden, Joan Grabowski, Joan Harris, Selma Lee Koss, Lucille Latour, Angelina McElraith, Phyllis Mavrikis, Rose Montoro, Celia Rocco, Esta Sanfilippo, Ida Simpson, Monica Scarry, Dorothy Soflis, and Eileen Sillick. So, thank you. In appreciation for your 30 years of sharing your time, we have a certificate of appreciation for all of you. Thank you. We'd have the commission please stand and gather around for a photo.
Yes. Can I have the men on the outside? Yes, there we go. Nice and tight, all the way in. All the way in, all the way in. Like you really like each other. Do you guys want to come up over on the other side, up on the dais? Yes. Go. Why don't you come on up behind the dais? Just the outside.
Take anything from Joe's desk.
Yeah, let's kind of go a little sideways.
There we go. Good. Squeeze it nice and tight. There you go. Very nice. Much better.
Even more.
Joe, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I don't think I need the microphone. I would just like to. Here. Okay, thank you all. We really, really appreciate this honor to Mayor Bill Gans and the commissioners. We really appreciate all of your support. We appreciate the community's support. I'd just like to report also that for those of you that don't know, we had been looking at a budget cut of over $195,000 to the Alzheimer's Daycare Center over at the Northeast Focal Point. That money has been reinstated. And I have to say that we couldn't do it without the support of everybody in the community, all your letters, your phone calls, your texts, your emails. I think they were just so happy to get rid of us. They were just really, really happy to reinstate the money, and it goes a very, very long way. We reach out to so many people in this community, and there are so many people in this room that have been affected by Alzheimer's. We love our home away from home, and we hope and we look forward to growing the community center and reaching out to more and more people in our community. I think that it truly is and should continue to be a focal point in our beautiful Deerfield Beach community. I'd also like to say thank you to Commissioner Prentice
for a very, very nice donation that you made from your election funds, campaign funds, that you made a very nice donation of $1,000. And we greatly appreciate it. And for all of you that came out to our wonderful Cuisine of the Region, it was the biggest, the baddest, the best, and we hope every year it's going to get bigger and better. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jim. I do want to say, I would also like to thank County Commissioner Chip LaMarca for his assistance in talking with some elected officials in Tallahassee to make sure that we got the funding that we needed. So thank you to Commissioner LaMarca for doing that. Next, we mentioned this at our last meeting, but we wanted to officially do this. The very first meeting with myself sworn in and my fellow new commissioners, while that meeting was going on, there was a tragedy, a potential tragedy, and a medical emergency happening outside. Daryl Stallings, Lieutenant Stallings, are you here? He's not here tonight. But on that night, there was a medical emergency in which the swift action of first off a civilian, a person in the community whose swift action brought the attention of our staff, resulted in what we believe is saving the life of Lieutenant Stallings. So Penny Frantello, the swift act, Penny Frantello, if you could please stand. Miss Frantello, by an act of God, I believe, stepped out at the right moment to find Lieutenant Stallings alone in a medical emergency, and her swift action in alerting staff saved his life that night. And it was also the actions of our chief, Robert Schnackenberg, our fire chief, Richard Sievers, Deputy Dennis Roll. Your actions that evening saved our lieutenant. So we thank you from the bottom of our heart. We give you a certificate of appreciation. Absolutely.
Squeeze in nice. Squeeze in nice.
Chief, did you want to say a few words? No.
Appreciate it, though.
Chief. Yeah. Can we squeeze in a little bit tighter? Yeah. There we go. One more. One more. Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion we pass everything.
We do have one final presentation regarding the FDOT construction on Hillsborough Boulevard between US 1 and Dixie Highway, presented by our Environmental Services Director.
Respectful good evening, Mayor, Commission, and to all those in attendance today. There's no doubt that we all are now fully aware that Hillsborough Boulevard is under construction. And that construction is sponsored by the Florida Department of Transportation, and it primarily includes everything from Military Trail all the way down to US 1. The primary components of that project is resurfacing, which was highly needed. They're going to be adding bike lanes. They're going to be hardening the traffic signals. They're going to be adding decorative street lights. And they're also going to have a major reconfiguration of the traffic way from US 1 to Dixie Highway. So we as a city have asked the FDOT folks to come on in tonight and give us an update on the construction activities and some of the additional traffic patterns that we may be seeing going on in the future, and primarily because we know that that section between US 1 and Dixie Highway is scheduled to start in July. So if I may, I'd like to introduce the folks that are going to give you a presentation on just that. So first I'd like to introduce Emilio Zamora. He is the project administrator, and he's very capable. He's been working very diligently with the city, keeping us informed and helping us work through some of the problems that we've been having. And then, of course, we have Ms. Diana Diaz. She is the community outreach specialist. She is the famous one that we all see every Friday whenever she delivers her updates on all the FDOT projects throughout Broward County. So I turn the mic over to them for them to share with you the status. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Good.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us here tonight and giving us the opportunity to address not only you, but also the community who's here present. I apologize for giving you guys my back, but please, my contact information will be up on the screen at the end of the presentation. To everyone here from the community, feel free to contact me at any time if you have any questions, any concerns relating to the construction. So as Tom mentioned, my name is Diana Diaz. I'm the community outreach specialist for this project, representing the Department of Transportation. And here tonight also with me is Emilio Zamora, our project administrator. But also in the audience, we have a couple of other project members. I'm going to go through the list of the people who are key members of this project team. Yaro Concepcion is our senior project engineer. He's here tonight, as is Evans Jean-Pierre, who's our project manager from the Department of Transportation. And we also have some members of our design team who are not present tonight, but they were key in developing this project in its early stages. A brief overview of the project for those who are not familiar with some of the details. The cost is a little over $9 million, and the contractor is General Asphalt. The project limits are from Military Trail to US 1, so it's quite a long stretch. And we started construction at the beginning of this year on January 3rd. The project is expected to continue until early next year, moving along in different phases and areas of work. And I'll let Emilio go over our schedule now and how the project is broken up.
Thank you very much for having us. The project is 3.4 miles long. It starts at Military Trail. It's broken up into 3 segments. From Military Trail to Jim Moran is segment 1. It's supposed to be scheduled to be completed by the end of June. Segment 2 is from Jim Moran to just Northeast 2nd Avenue, and that's going to be completed as well within June 2017. There is an exception in this corridor, which is the private developer at Natura Boulevard and Fairway Drive. We are not in charge of that construction project. And then there's segment 3, which starts at Southeast 2nd Avenue all the way to US 1. And that's scheduled to be completed early 2018. The major components of the project include pedestrian improvements, which is upgrading the pedestrian walkways to meet ADA standards. We're doing new sidewalks, as you have seen, between MLK, which is Martin Luther King, to Military Trail on the south side. We're doing new stamped sidewalks. Excuse me. We're upgrading the existing pedestrian signals and to countdown timers. We're improving the lighting system throughout the corridor. We're putting new decorative lighting as part of the construction project. We're putting up LED lights, and as you can see in the picture, it's going to go from a dim to very bright segment through this whole corridor. We're also improving the drainage. Since we have to do the widening, we have to improve the drainage structures, and we have 40 drainage structures throughout the whole corridor that we are improving. We're improving the signalization. We have 9 signalized intersections through the corridor, starting at Martin Luther King. We're doing a full reconstruction of Martin Luther King, Southwest 2nd Avenue, and Southeast 6th Avenue. New mast arms, and we're eliminating all the strain poles to meet the new standards. The roadway improvements include, we're building a new off-ramp to I-95. We're eliminating that through lane coming out of I-95 because there's too much weaving action going through there, so we're increasing capacity by adding another turn lane and a new intersection off there. We're also improving Southeast 2nd with high visibility markings for the school zone crossings. We're also adding medians through the corridor between Southeast 2nd Avenue and US 1. We're also removing, as Tom said, removing all the asphalt through the corridor because it's much needed, and putting in new pavement. The roadway configuration right now is we have 3 through lanes on each direction at 12 foot. We're reconfiguring to 11 feet to accommodate for the bike lane going through the corridor. That's between Military Trail and Northeast 2nd. Between Northeast 2nd and Southeast 2nd, we're going to be putting a shared bike lane, shared bike path. And then from Southeast 2nd to US 1, we're going to have a new configuration where we're going to have 2 lanes in each direction with the divided medians. By adding the divided medians and increasing the bike lane, we're putting a 7-foot bike lane between Southeast 2nd and US 1. That's going to be the most visible impact that we're going to have in this project. This change will increase safety to the pedestrians, to the motorists. It will dedicate the 2 lanes going in each direction and improve the safety factor through the whole corridor. It also increased the visibility and the appearance of the corridor as you travel through there. And this is pretty much a typical section what Diana is going to explain.
So the following set of visuals will give you an idea of what you're going to expect to see throughout the corridor in each section. You can see that the travel lanes, the bike lanes, and the sidewalks are all marked out with how wide they'll be, as well as the medians. This here is along Hillsborough Boulevard between Military Trail and 2nd Terrace. Moving along, we have from 2nd Terrace to 2nd Avenue. And you can see that in this section here, there aren't exclusive bike lanes, but rather the travel lane share combination on the outside lane. And between 2nd Avenue and US 1, where you see the 7-foot bike lane in this section here.
And as Tom said, this is the most important segment of the construction project. We're going to see the most visible impacts to the community here. And as you can see, we're going with 2 lanes in each direction. We're doing the 7-foot buffered bike lane. We're going to maintain a 7-foot sidewalk through there. And later on in the future, when we're done, we're going to come in through with a landscape project. As far as the phasing in this project, in this segment, we're going to start off by shifting traffic to one side of the road because we have to build the features on the south side of the road first. And that will take maybe 2 months. And once we finish with that segment, we shift the traffic over to the southern side of the road, build the northern part of the road, and then once we're done with that, we're going to be doing the middle, which is the medians. All said and done, it's going to take about 6 to 8 months to complete this segment, and once it's done, it's going to look pretty much like this.
As far as traffic impact, this project involves a single lane closure in each direction as needed, and that's typically allowed within any time according to the contract, but we do only utilize lane closures as needed. At the moment, you've seen that there's been an eastbound lane closed, and that's where they were reconstructing the sidewalk and installing drainage along the south side of the road between Military Trail and MLK, where they've been focusing on the majority of the work efforts. Additionally, we can close up to 2 lanes, and that's overnight. Typical hours are between 7:30 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. Again, that would only be as needed, in addition to the 1 lane that would be closed continuously as needed for work. There is a future full closure of eastbound Hillsborough Boulevard that'll be near the CSX Railroad. We don't have a date for that just yet for that work, but once we do have that, that'll be in the weekly traffic report, and we'll also send additional updates and information. I have a good relationship with Rebecca, so we'll make sure that the city has all the relevant information as far as a detour and when those closures are going to be scheduled, so you have that information in advance. And finally, sidewalks. As we're reconstructing any one side of the road, we'll make sure that we have one sidewalk available at least. So those of you who've driven through the corridor have seen that there's been construction mostly on the south side, but also we've had the signalization improvements. They're complete throughout the entire project limits. And we've been doing a lot of widening also. And again, in early July, we expect to move on to segment 3, which is that area from 2nd Avenue to US 1, while also being completed with the work in segments 1 and segment 2, which is further to the west. Here you have our contact information for those who don't already have it. My name is Diana Diaz. I'm the Community Outreach Specialist for the project. That number there is my cell phone, where you can reach me any day, anytime. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the project, and there's also my email address. And then, of course, also Emilio's contact information. We're both here and available for the community or the elected officials or the media. I know I've spoken with Diane extensively, so she has information about the project as well. And with that, we'll open the floor to any questions.
I do have a question, Diana. With the full closure of the railroad tracks on the eastbound, the concern is that might randomly happen at a time that might have an even more severe impact than it's already going to happen around a holiday or some sort of special event that might be. Is there any ability to try to negotiate when that closure might happen to make sure it has the smallest impact as possible to the businesses in the community?
Yes, definitely. We understand that that's a big deal. You know, a full closure is never comfortable for anyone. I believe the information I've received so far is that would just be over the course of a weekend. So Friday night and then opened up by Monday morning, because we also know that a lot of commuters use this road to get to and from work or other business. But we'll certainly coordinate that date with you guys and make sure that there's no conflicts. Emilio also is working closely with Tom, so we have additional resources there through him.
Thank you. Commissioner Battle, you had a question?
Yes, I have a question, but as you can see, let me start off by saying, as you can see, that section between Howell Line to Martin Luther King, from Martin Luther King, just after you leave Natura and in that area, that's most of the foot traffic. I don't think you have any other foot traffic in any of the other areas like you do right in there. And as I listen to your presentation, I'm trying to get it clear in my head which piece of this project will not have dedicated bike lanes.
Sure.
That will be between northwest 2nd to southeast 2nd. That's
okay.
Just east of Martin Luther King, to right where the post office is at.
And you can see my problem. The problem
It's right where Bazaar is at.
Yes, right where Bazaar
right
is.
where the Bazaar is at.
In that light because
right, and the reason that we do not have the space, because right now the lanes are already at 11 foot, and we don't have the right of way to actually widen the road to what we need to. So we are doing the shared path or the shared bike lane.
So is there any way that we can forego that?
I would have to look at that, but right now, as it stands, I do not have an answer. But we're not able to do that.
Because in one breath, you're telling me that we need to ride our bikes, get out of cars or whatever. And in my mind's eye, as I look at an 11-foot pathway with shared bikes and cars, it's not going to work. I go to bring your attention to Southwest 10th Street, and you have a bike lane there, and I don't know how you all decide to configure these things, but the bike lane comes in, the cars who are turning right, I'm just afraid that someday there's going to be a big accident there with the bicyclists or cyclists and the cars, because the cars right now, even though the bicycles aren't that, there are not that many bike riders in that area, but just in case, the way that you do that turn lane, the cyclist has no protection whatsoever, and I don't know how we let FDOT or anybody else do these lanes. You look at other places like Bogota where they have defined lanes and they have something that shields the cyclists from the cars, and we don't do that here. Just something for you to think about and bring me back an answer as to whether or not we can forego, since we don't have the room. I would rather not have a shared pathway for cyclists. They can go, I don't know how they're gonna get around that area, but
We'll note your
Thank you.
concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we'd like to move on to our quasi-judicial hearings. Reopening this up to the public. Do we have this presentation? Oh, I'm sorry. My
noticed his
apologies.
light
I
on,
see
yeah.
that it's not showing up over here for some reason.
Simple math. Dixie Highway to Federal Highway. Let us assume, I'm going to use simple numbers. 100 cars an hour go on 3 lanes from Dixie to US 1. That's 33 cars an hour. Now you have 100 cars and you have 2 lanes. So now you're going to put 50 cars on each lane. Tell me that's not going to slow traffic down. That's 1. 2, if you now have 2 lanes and a bus breaks down, how does an ambulance get through? How many lives are going to be lost? Because a fire truck, a police car, or an ambulance is stuck. A bus breaks down, you have 1 lane. How do they get through?
In an emergency situation, the first responding vehicles would have, many options available to them. If possible, they may be able to go against traffic, or if there's enough room, they could likely drive in the bike lane.
I don't see an ambulance going in a 7-foot bike lane. I
Correct.
don't see a fire truck going in a 7-foot bike lane.
It would depend on where the broken down vehicle is, but in any case, this project initially in its first inception, it was just going to be a resurfacing project that FDOT was going to undertake because Hillsborough Boulevard is in need of the resurfacing. And the city of Deerfield Beach put together a study through a consultant that identified that there wouldn't be any significant changes to volume. That's the information that we've gotten from the design team regarding the inception of the project. Emilio and I are here tonight, and we're able to address questions about the construction and the phasing and the traffic impacts that we'll have during construction. But for questions about the history of the project or these decisions to make this lane reduction, we'd have to get back with the design team, and we can follow up with you at a later date.
I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission have any questions? Thank you very much for the presentation and the update. Thank you. I'd like to move on to the quasi-judicial public hearing that we have.
There is one quasi-judicial hearing. Is the applicant, United Growth Capital, here as the representative step forward and identify themselves and indicate whether they wish to waive the quasi-judicial procedures. Please state your name and whether you wish to waive.
Yes, sir. Mark Rickards from Kimley Horn, here on behalf of the owner and applicant, and yes, we do wish to waive.
Anyone who's going to testify, would you please raise your right hand and take the oath? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Applicant, you can make your presentation now, unless, Eric, do you have anything, or would you want to let them?
The project meets all code requirements.
Okay. So all code, you satisfy all requirements of the land development code, is that right?
And sir, I'm certainly willing to run through the project if the board would wish. We agree with staff's recommendation, respectfully ask for a vote of approval tonight.
Commission comments before we open up to the public first. Commissioner Drosky.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This project would be in my district out west, in front of the existing Target Center. I read through all of the backup materials. They're not requesting any variances. All of the other comments that have come before staff have been answered in our backup materials, and there's no outstanding items. The only question or point that I want to bring up to the applicant at this time, if I may, is that you're filling in half of the retention area there, and you're on the northeast corner of what I call the Four Corners area out west. And if you go across the street to the northwest corner, there's a retention pond, or it's not even a pond, it's just a ditch really, and that is frequently filled with litter. What can you do to prevent that scenario on the northwest corner occurring from your location on the northeast corner?
I think that's a very good point, Commissioner. The current condition really reflects some old school drainage principles where what is considered today prime out parcel land was turned into retention areas, and what happens commonly is there's not any eyes on it. Nobody parks near it, nobody visits it, maintenance staff doesn't get calls on it, and over time it collects trash. I actually think this redevelopment, which will have to put some underground exfiltration trench to make up for the drainage that we take away, certainly puts a lot more eyes on the retention pond that remains, but also creates a vigilant tenant, which is PDQ, who has a vital interest in keeping their property clean and attractive. That's what I would say in response to that. You're going to have a lot more people in vicinity with interest.
I don't dispute what you're saying, and I've heard this many, many times before. I was on planning and zoning 8 years before coming to the commission, and we get a lot of verbal representations, and then you go your merry way, and then the actual, tenant comes in and does their, or the owner comes in and does their thing. Would you be adverse to doing some type of refuse plan as part of your application, and that would make me feel better going forward?
I would not be opposed to that. And would that take the form of a plan that we submit to staff that explains how often and how the maintenance occurs and how often we're looking at the remaining retention area?
Yes, correct.
I would be happy to stipulate to that.
What we'll do is we'll add that to the approval, and that maintenance plan will be considered part of the approval.
Okay. Other than that, I have no further questions at this time. I reserve after the public comment. Thank you.
Before we get to public comments, I just have one statement to make, and it's less about the applicant and more about our process. If you look at this map here, that map represents our public notification boundaries. Majority of the area in which is being notified is the actual Target shopping center. So I don't feel we're really doing what we need to do when it comes to reaching out to the community and letting them know about a project that's coming forward and any particular issues they have it, since the majority of this boundary here seems to be consumed by a parking lot. So this might be something we might want to consider to change our process a little bit with our public notification when you have a scenario like this. It might be highly unusual, but I encourage that just to make sure that the public is properly notified. With that, I'd like to open up for public comments. Anyone from the public like to comment on this? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any other commission comments? Motion, perhaps?
I'd like to motion to approve, subject to the refuse plan.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnes?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Thank you very much. Welcome to Deerfield Beach. And now we have the audience to be heard. Mr. City Attorney, can you please read the...
This is an opportunity to speak on matters for 3 minutes on items that are not on the agenda. No comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibility shall be permitted.
Anyone from the public like to speak?
Wait, we're friends. We're friends.
All right.
Denise Bogner, 1157 Southwest 26th Avenue. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the city staff. I'm off on Sundays. That's generally when I think about something I want to communicate to the city. On a Sunday afternoon, I sent an email message to Burgess. At 8:15 Sunday evening, he responded to me. This past Sunday, the irrigation system was going off in the park by my house, and I just went online and just went to Parks and Rec, and the message went to David Miller. Is he the new? Yes. By an hour later, David was returning my message that he got it and he's going to check and get the irrigation fixed. So I acknowledge the staff. They're on duty 24 hours a day. I've come in contact with Commissioner Battle at 7 o'clock a.m. at a Publix grocery store one day, and she was on her way to Fort Lauderdale to go to an informational meeting. So, you know, we see you guys up here for a few hours every couple of weeks, but really your time is put in all the time. The next thing that's funny that I wanted to recognize is the fact that we now can bring old U.S. flags here to the city, and rather than putting them in the garbage, which is not what you're supposed to do. I had a couple from my house, one from Butler House, one from my friend Joan Maurice, and I had the two little boys next door to me, Mason and Gavin Eggleston. We went online so that they could learn how to properly fold a U.S. flag. And I have them here. I'll drop them off. I guess it's at the police station next door. But I'm going to pass this sign down. The boys didn't know really how important it is how we handle our flag. And you acknowledge the Haitian flag today. Well, I'm acknowledging the U.S. flag today. So thank you.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
My house is going to be for sale very soon. It's 418 Southeast 2nd Street, Deerfield Beach, Florida.
Name, please.
Oh, Katie Freitag.
Thank you.
The reason it's going to be for sale is I'm not going to be able to get to work. I'm not going to be able to get home. I'm not going to be able to get anywhere trying to get up and down Hillsborough. The fact that they're going to during this construction process, they're going to shut down one side of Hillsborough and everybody's going to use the other side. You're going to have everybody in 3 lanes. You're going to have buses going both ways in those lanes. I mean, how are they? Is that not what I understood just now? I don't know because nobody answers our questions. My point here is, how long did it take everybody to get to work to the meeting tonight? Imagine when this is going to go on for the next year and a half, however long, that it's going to take twice as long to get to work. It's going to take twice as long to get to these meetings. It's going to take twice as long to get to Publix. It's going to take twice as long to get to 95. Please stay on top of FDOT during this process. Please stay on top of FDOT during the Southwest 10th program, the project that's going on. Please stay on top of them. They are not listening to our concerns. They don't care. They just don't give a hoot. They don't live here. They don't have to live on these streets. They don't have to drive up and down these streets. They don't care. So if we could please stay on top of that, I would appreciate it. Second thing is, I haven't been in a couple of meetings, but I have listened and watched every meeting that I've missed. I haven't seen any progress in the way of us reaching out to the Broward County Commission School Board and finding out, how can we get better in front of them. I haven't heard anybody talk about how we're going to get in front of them so that we can make sure that the money that is set aside for our students is actually coming back to Deerfield Beach and getting spent in our schools. Our schools need the help. They need our voice, our commitment to go to them, to the board, and say, listen, we are paying our taxes. Make sure the tax money that we're paying for into the schools is actually coming back to Deerfield. And the last thing I wanted to double check, and this was again on the Dixie, on the Hillsborough, is there a way to make sure that when they're doing the construction on the train tracks, they're going to be down for a weekend, can it actually coincide with the work that the train track people are doing to silence the horns so we don't have the horns anymore? I mean, can it all be done at the same time so we don't have to have the intersection shut down 2 separate times? Can they not be done at the same time? That is, I do believe that is still in the works, that the horns along the corridor there are all going to be silenced, and they're actually doing different safety measures instead. I don't know if that is still the case, but I do hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Name and address for the record, please.
Perry Cohen, 263 Wildwood Circle. I'm going to read because it's easier. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for having me here. I'm the president of Wildwood at Deer Creek. And recently, several of my neighbors came in and they said they wanted to have a garage sale. I was not happy about it. None of my board was happy, and we didn't sanction it. But I did come to the city and ask, what's the deal? How do we do this? Is this allowed? Truthfully, I got bounced around from one department to the next to the next. There are no clear lines, rules, anything about communities having garage sales. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's not in this climate. And I'd like to know what the city commission is going to do, if anything, about getting some rules and regulations going. That is my major complaint. Other than that, I think you guys are great, especially you, Gloria. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to speak? I'd like to close the public portion to be heard. Just to answer a couple questions regarding that were brought up. I think there's a misunderstanding that based on the construction project that was just presented, they're not shutting down the north side of Hillsborough to work on the south. They are going to be working on one side of Hillsborough at a time. Does not mean, much like it's happened to the western portion of this project so far, there has been a lane closure on one side of the road, but not both at not on the east or westbound at the same time. I do encourage you to reach out to Diana from FDOT on this construction project. One of the points that I tried to make with making sure that we had the ability to coordinate that railroad crossing closure is that it gives us some flexibility in allowing us when we're able to do that. I don't know when the quiet zones, I don't know if any of you know, when the quiet zones will be installed. So that the timing of that, I'm not sure of. So, but that is something that we were checking with them. That's the reason I asked that question, is to make sure we had some flexibility in what might be happening with that project. I hope that answered. The statement was made that we don't answer questions. We do answer questions. I guess the question has to be asked first for us to answer it. So we do try to answer as many questions as possible. The other statement that was said as far as what are we doing about garage sales, this is something that was brought up, I believe it was 2 years ago, Commissioner Battle. We had some issues in the city. I actually put that out in a newsletter out to the residents and in the local newspapers to find out what the feedback was, because we had some proposals to put it in for permits to only allow a certain amount of garage sales during the year. And overwhelmingly, the response was no, do not put any regulations on it. They didn't feel it was right. And I would say it was probably, if you counted 10 people, 8 to 2. 20% of the people were outnumbered on that and putting any types of regulations when it comes to garage sales. Those of you who live in a homeowners association, you have the ability to put those rules in that would limit it to just your community. It's much harder to do it citywide, because citywide people have very different feelings. So that's, I hope that answered your questions. Anybody have any other comments on what was asked? Okay. Thank you. We're going to move forward then for the public hearing, second reading.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending the City of Deerfield Beach land use plan, changing the land use designation to local activity center for property known as Pioneer Grove, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date.
Any comments on the commission, from the commission, before we open up to the public? No? Seeing none, anyone from the public like to comment on this? Please come up. Name and address for the record, please.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street. This is the other issue that's kind of bothering me a little bit. Looking at the presentation about what they want to do with Pioneer Grove, I think it's great. I have a couple of questions. What are they going to do with all the businesses that are there currently? How is that going to affect all of them? How are they going to have to move? Are they going to tear down all the buildings that they are in? How is that going to affect them? Also, how is it going to affect my house? My house, if you look through the plan, that little black line that showed all the different people that were notified, I was one house off. I'm one house away from being notified. I don't want to live a block off of Las Olas. And that's the kind of area that they're trying to develop it into, like big Las Olas. Well, I don't want to live a block off Las Olas. I don't have the patience for the traffic that we have now coming down my street. I don't know that we're going to be able to deal with more traffic, more people trying to cut through my street, my area, my neighborhood to get to Hillsborough, or off of Hillsborough to get to Federal and back and forth. The other big aspect about it is, if we're going to go through with this, can at least maybe we work into the plan that we do not build any building higher than we do on the beach? Can we keep it limited to 5 stories? We don't need big giant high rises all up and down this area, and I don't know if that's the idea of it, but at least can we at least put something in there so that we do not overpopulate? 2,150 new residences in that area, that small area. 2,150 new possible residents in that area. That's like adding another 2,150 residents on the beach that's already overcrowded as it is. So I'd like those considerations to be taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Gentlemen? Name and address for the record, please.
Paul Arcella, 90 Southeast 3rd Court. Commissioners, Mr. Mayor, appreciate the opportunity. I'm the president of CSR Heavy Construction. Our business is located in the Pioneer Grove section. Our business, family business, started by my father-in-law back in 1973, and all that time it's been within the city of Deerfield Beach. Many of our employees are residents, and believe it or not, I'm actually, as many of our employees are graduates of Deerfield Beach High School, so we're all, invested in the community. And oftentimes we work for the city of Deerfield Beach, so we've been part of this community. And certainly by no means, I think it's a great plan what the city is proposing. Our concern, obviously, from a business standpoint, is our ability to continue to own and operate our business. We own several lots in that area. We've been to the zoning. We've got wind of this when it came out, I guess it was over a year ago. So little by little, we've visited with the zoning department of the city of Deerfield Beach. I also appeared in front of the Land Planning Council for Broward County, and I've also had discussions with Commissioner LaMarca. Our only concern, obviously, is our ability to continue to own and operate our family business, and how that zoning and proposed rezoning, which we understand will happen, and certainly the area could use a zoning change. So I just wanted to appear before you to express our concerns as we have through this process, to be able to own and operate our business currently where we are. We've been there a long time. In fact, I've worked for the company since I was in high school, and I can remember our street out in front of our shop was actually a dirt road. So we've been there a long time, and that's why I wanted to appear before you and express our concerns tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? And close the public portion to be heard. To address what the gentleman said, I do remember you coming before us at the Broward County Planning Council, and it was excellent points regarding that. So everyone understands what this is nothing is going to happen to the existing businesses. They're not being torn down, they're not being run out, and that is what this does, is changing the zoning to allow for redevelopment and creating what will be a long-term plan to create a new environment over there. That does not mean we're looking to run out existing businesses, and we're very sensitive to the fact that we have existing businesses there, everything from a construction company to small markets that we have over there to residential housing. And we want to make sure that, the bulldozers aren't starting tomorrow to tear down things to build what is Pioneer Grove. This isn't a development. This is a zoning change to create, to allow for the revitalization of that neighborhood. And I believe that's what the intent of this is. City Manager, you have any comments regarding that?
Well, I think you hit most of them. So this is not something where the city has any plans to take property. That is not what Pioneer Grove is about. In fact, Pioneer Grove, this has been a project that we've been working on probably for the past 7 years, and it's to complement what we also want to do along the Dixie Business Residential Corridor from Hillsborough down to Southwest 15th in the city. By no means do we want to copy what they've done in Los Olas or in other cities around South Florida. We want this to represent the city of Deerfield Beach and keep that village feel. But this is an area that certainly does need some revitalization. I would like to have Mr. Power just address any points that he'd like to on some of the questions that were brought up or comments.
Thank you. Mayor's comments were on point. Sorry if you guys can't see me. The application that went to the Planning Council and went to the state clearly stated that the city of Deerfield Beach is not going to be taking anyone's land, and any existing use is allowed to remain in perpetuity. They actually do not become non-conforming. They're existing uses. In regards to the height, while the ordinance has not gone forward to commission at this time, at this moment, the proposed height would be a maximum of 4 stories. So it would not be a high-rise type of situation.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes, I was also on the planning council. Sir, I remember your testifying in front of the council, and I think you were assured that if somebody wants to build houses next to the lot of your construction company, they would be informed that trucks leave early in the morning and come back late at night, and if they still want to build them, to notify the people buying the houses that that is part of the deal, because your business would stay. So rest assured, nothing has changed. The businesses that are there, period. Any new projects will have to be built around the businesses that are already there. So we're not looking to push you out in any way. We welcome your long service to the city as a builder, as a resident, and we respect that. So rest assured, we're not looking to move out businesses or homes, for that matter, but to change the appearance, upgrade, wherever possible, to make it a better neighborhood. And that's our goal. Thank you.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes, very quickly. And I heard what you said, Mr. Mayor, as well as my colleague up here on the dais about the businesses. And you didn't come across to those of us that have houses in that area. Those will be saved also. Those are grandfathered in also. Yeah. My question is, as we look at doing this project, that those people who have homes in that area, funds be identified that could help them to bring their properties in conformity to the area, basically, because what you have over there now is a hodgepodge of family houses here and there. And if we go in and we put this in and we don't provide them with some funds, or at least let them know where they can go and get some funds to help them to bring their building up to the code that will be in that area, it's going to do them a disservice. So I wanted, where's the reporter who, yes, I wanted in writing that the people that own houses over there be given the same type of consideration as those people who own businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's important to know, if you look at that area, there's a lot of undeveloped land. As a matter of fact, 20% of the privately owned undeveloped land in Broward County is in the city of Deerfield Beach. Development's going to happen. It's important for us to put in zonings and help shape a vision for an area that won't allow for people just to randomly put up something that doesn't really match, where you have a hodgepodge of mixed uses that don't make sense. So this zoning, this land use amendment is, one, to encourage improvement, but it's also to provide some guidelines that will allow for a sense of community in that area that might not exist now. So rest assured, Broward County, development's going to come. Things are going to change. And this gives us the ability to encourage good, positive development that will help the area as opposed to hurt the area. So when you're dealing with private property, obviously they have their rights to do what they want, but by putting in these types of land uses, this type of land use, it gives us the ability to have, to kind of help shape that community over there. Anything else?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
The next is an ordinance amending the City of Deerfield Beach Comprehensive Plan Land Use Plan text amendment by amending the permitted uses of future land use element to include land use category of local activity center and establishing goals, objectives, policies, and uses and intensities for a local activity center designation. The Pioneer Grove will be what's called the local activity center. So what we're doing in the comprehensive plan, we're creating a category of uses called local activity centers to all line up so that everything fits together. And that's what this ordinance does.
Any commission comments before we open to the public? Anyone from the public like to speak on this item? Not seeing anyone, and close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments?
I think we should approve it. Make a motion to approve.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Will you please have a roll call?
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnes?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
Next is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending the City of Deerfield Beach Land Development Regulations, amending Section 98-103 relating to reasonable accommodation, providing for additional requirements and annual recertification, containing a severability clause, inclusion in the city code, and an effective date.
Commission comments before opening to the public? I'm going to go ahead and say this, and as part of it, I'm going to read from it, because obviously when you talk about reasonable accommodations and you're dealing with group homes, we have to be cautious in what we're saying, but so I want to make sure this is very clear. But as required by law, the city has a reasonable accommodation ordinance to handle situations where a group or groups of people or someone wishing to house disabled persons seeks to gain relief from zoning regulations which limit the amount of persons that can live in a single-family home. The case law tells us that the city has to provide a procedure to provide relief where warranted. We've been watching what other cities are trying to do. The city of Delray Beach has been leading the way with a lot of different ordinances. We are watching this very closely. We're watching not just what they're doing here in South Florida, but what they're doing throughout the country when it comes to working with group homes. And we've also been dealing with our elected officials in a higher office, which is the ones who really have the controls over a lot of these issues. So while Delray Beach has been in the forefront, it behooves us to allow them to pave the way, so it certainly is less costly for us to do that. But rest assured that the city of Deerfield Beach is trying to do everything it can when it comes to these types of situations. I did ask the city attorney to draft an ordinance to change these present rules, and just so you understand what they are, the most significant aspect of this ordinance is the requirement of recertification for reasonable accommodation approvals. What that means is in granting reasonable accommodations, we often think of the need to protect the residents of the community and the surrounding neighborhood, which is absolutely very, very important. But however, the city also has an obligation to these disabled people residing in their homes. And the requirement for recertification of an approval for an approved reasonable accommodation mandates that anyone receiving a reasonable accommodation to house more than 3 people in a single-family home must go through recertification process every year. Right now, once it's granted, that's it. There's no certification process. Once they have it, it just exists. This will put in place a recertification process every year, and I think Vice Mayor Miller for asking it to be every year as opposed to 2 years, which was originally proposed. Rather than providing an open grant of a reasonable accommodation is universally common, this ordinance will allow the lead of the city, will allow us to actually go through a review. And this will basically let the people that own these, they need to be good citizens, not just to the public, but they need to be good landlords to the disabled people who have been put in their trust by residing at these group homes. This type of accountability is what we need when it comes to dealing with this type of situation. I do encourage all of you to support this. Anyone from the public like to comment? Name and address again, please.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street. I think this is an absolute great step forward in the right direction for the residents of Deerfield. My only request is maybe to take into consideration again what Mr. Rosenzweig said at the last meeting, that maybe in addition to these applications, we could limit the number of people that are actually living in the homes per bedrooms, or to at least a reasonable number. I think that would definitely help allow us to not tax the infrastructure of the city so much in the way of water, power, trash, everything along those lines. If we could at least maybe consider that, I think that would be a definite bonus to this ordinance. Thanks.
City Attorney.
limiting the number is very difficult. The law really wants you to do it on a case-by-case basis, although one city in California, Costa Mesa, California, has taken the lead on this. But to show you how difficult it is, they started their limiting at over 6 per residence. And they allowed additional residents by special exception. So an absolute prohibition, I think, would run you into trouble. Rest assured, each commissioner up here and the mayor have let me know that they want us to stay abreast of, and that's what we're doing here, on the latest with group homes, and I stress group homes. And that's what we're doing. We are following very closely. We're following closely the actions of our legislators in Washington. And we have 2 goals here, obviously, to protect the residential communities. But first and foremost, under the ADA, is to protect those people who are residing in these group homes, because that is the key. And that's what I think it was good that the mayor pointed out, the twin goals here, that we have an obligation. And that's, frankly, the justification used by the city of Costa Mesa in limiting to 6 was the benefit of the residents, the disabled people living in the home. So we're looking at it, an absolute limit would have problems, but we're constantly looking to refine what we have.
This also, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, city attorney, that this also gives us the ability, should they not meet the requirements each year, there's a potential for them to lose their reasonable accommodation, which would essentially probably force them to close up.
This is the ultimate accountability for them, which at this point we have no accountability. So I think it's a really significant step.
Thank you.
And again, for protection of the residents there is a key element.
Commissioner Drosky and then Commissioner Parnas.
Thank you. This is an issue that affects all 4 of our districts. This isn't just limited to one particular area of our city or our city in general. And for the case of Costa Mesa that the city attorney cites, for every case that the court approves restrictions or regulations, you will find 10 cases where the court disapproves regulations that the municipalities are trying to impose. So the ordinance that's before us has been very carefully crafted by the city attorney and Mayor Gans in his proposal, and I think allows the city the most flexibility without going over a particular line against which the courts have ruled against. So I'm in favor of the ordinance the way that it's drafted.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yeah, the ordinance is quite simple. We are asking for recertification every year, not something else. Something else is a different issue. We're taking it one step at a time. Problem is there's federal law allowing these homes. And everybody that's fought them has banged their head against the wall because the federal law prevails. This is step 1 in controlling the situation. And I think we should go forward with step 1. We'll see how the courts deal with around the country before we can go to step 2. If we put it all in 1 and somebody goes to court, we could lose it all. This we can do, and we can do it now. So I support it the way it's written.
And just to piggyback on your comments to make sure that step 2, in no way, shape, or form is this meant to discriminate. It's also to protect the actual residents of these group homes. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve number 10.
We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
Next is an ordinance amending Article 9, Section 34-170, prohibitions regarding sale and use of expanded polystyrene food service articles by city contractors and special event permittees. Amending Section 50-109, 50-112, and 50-113 to include a ban on expanded polystyrene food service articles. This was requested, Vice Mayor Miller requested this, and I'm sure he'll tell you that he had hoped that we could go further, but we are confronted by a state statute that very specifically limits what we can do. So this ordinance goes as far as we believe we can go under the state statute. And my understanding is also, I think Sharon Cruz indicated to you, I think we'll be the first in Broward County to adopt it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor Miller, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The first time I even thought of banning or trying to do something with polystyrene, styrofoam as we know it, was I think at 2 or 3 years ago at one of our Earth Day celebrations, just like we had at the park. I might be calling it the wrong thing, where we celebrate recycling and such like that. And I just realized that I thought our city was pretty well known as out in front of many other municipalities as far as our recycling efforts. And I think we do a great job. I like the all-in big containers, and it makes it simple. And I think we've grown, and we get people credit for recycling and such like that. Then I came to do a little study of this polystyrene, and I realized 2 years ago, or a year ago, 2 years, I forget exactly what it was, I brought up the idea of possibly banning it. And frankly, we decided, let's try to recycle it. Let's try a better effort of recycling it. And I'm here to tell you that our own efforts have failed in recycling the polystyrene. We cannot put it in our bins. It would be up to us to gather and bring it to the recycling center. When I had done that, accumulated 6 months of worth of this stuff, had my car full of it in big plastic bags, I go to bring it to our drop-off center, and the man says, we can't take any more. And he's got seemingly 50 containers full of it, and he says we cannot get a vendor to pick it up. I hate not recycling. And it ends up, it's just not profitable for any vendor to do this with this particular product. I originally was hoping that we could ban it in the city in total. I mean, even restaurants giving their takeouts with this product because there are alternatives. But I realized by state statute we can't go that far. There's a couple of factors here. The stuff does not break down. If any of you had any opportunity to look it up, it doesn't break down effectively. Our oceans are full of it. There's anywhere where you see accumulation of junk, you're going to see styrofoam floating in the ocean. Fish consume it. Birds consume it. It's just, it doesn't, again, it doesn't break down. Secondly, it has a potential health hazard for human beings. It's a petroleum-based product, and frankly, when you put it in a hot cup of coffee, the very heat, in fact, as I read, some of the chemicals will actually seep into the coffee or whatever hot drink that you're drinking. So over time, even though it's a minute portion, over time, you're consuming what's purported to be a cancer-causing agent. So besides the fact that it works well as an insulator, for our environment, for our personal health, I like the idea of a city taking a stand against something that's not environmentally sound or healthy for us. And Mayor, I remember when we had the building, one of the first things that happened since you are here was the pier building, and we opted to go for LED certified. That means an environmentally friendly building and do the best we could. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't we achieve gold standard or something? One standard higher, in which we couldn't have accommodated, maybe platinum or something. But we set an example to our city to use materials, use toilets, use recyclable products in a way that sets an example to others in the city to be good stewards of our environment. As I've come to realize, we cannot ban it from our restaurants because of state statute, but I think at the very least, for our own parks, our own waterways, we've been talking about waterways from the first meeting Mayor had, to have this stuff floating in our waterways is not good. So if it does nothing else but at least symbolically shows that we're environmentally good stewards, I know a lot of places have banned this. If you look at a map of the country, there's many areas that have banned this in total because their states allow it. I believe New York City is one of them. But so I'm just saying, I don't think it would be very hard for us to say our vendors cannot, while they're having their things at the beach, put their food in this type of containers. There certainly are alternatives, and I'd pay a penny or two more to have a biodegradable alternative than this stuff that never breaks down. So I'm asking for your support. And love to hear if anybody could make a case for this product.
Anyone else from the commission like to speak? Open it up to the public. Anyone from the public like to speak on this item?
Richard Rosenzweig, 97 Farnamie in Deerfield Beach. Commissioner, you're looking at a recycling bin that sits in your district, in Publix supermarket, right there in the Publix in the mall there. Publix does recycle foam, and they have this in mind, I'm sure. If they're doing it this store, they're doing it at other stores as well. And more than that, you have a major business located here in Deerfield Beach called Dart Industries, which manufactures this product. So you tell it to ban it here, you're telling this industry they're no longer welcome in Deerfield Beach because this is their livelihood. So I'd suggest we contact Publix and find out what they're doing and how they're recycling this product before we ban it altogether. Commissioner, I respect your interest in this and the fact it doesn't break down and so forth. But we have to be very careful how we do this and make sure we're not harming others, you know, and the ramifications of taking a step like this and harming employees and businesses that rely on this. Until such time as we can come up with a better product and a better position for them to be able to handle this, I suggest we look at this a little differently than just banning it outright at this point without studying it and looking at Dart Industries and other industries in our city that rely on this particular product. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Former Commissioner. Name and address for the record.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street. When I read through this ordinance, the one thing that kind of struck me was the fact that it had stated that there would not allow styrofoam in city parks. They would not allow styrofoam on our beach. When you get into Deerfield as a tourist, the first thing you're doing is you're going to Publix and you're buying a styrofoam cooler to take food and drinks to the beach. You're going to not allow styrofoam on the beach. You're not going to not allow styrofoam coolers in city parks. If I've read that incorrectly, please advise, but I don't think that's exactly the best option for tourists when we're trying to attract them to our city.
Someone else from the public?
How you doing? Kevin Myers, 600 West Hillsborough. I'm with Dark Container. We've been an active and good corporate citizen here in Deerfield Beach since 1994. I know we've had some discussions with the commission on this particular issue. And in fact, there was a recycling program, as you say, Vice Mayor, in the city of Deerfield that was discontinued by the city of Deerfield. We are actively recycling foam throughout the United States as well as some other countries in Canada, Mexico, and some others too. It is a product that obviously there's concerns about. We can address some of those concerns. We'd like the city to reconsider recycling. It is a product. We have a drop-off facility, for example, here in the state of Florida, our Plant City, Florida location right outside of Lakeland. We've been an active participant in the community. As a matter of fact, in 2015, we were part of the Green Expo out of Quiet Waters Park. We've got a number of other events that we do participate in, Rotary Club with their back-to-school backpack program and many, many others. I want to continue to be a good corporate citizen here in the city of Deerfield Beach. I've been a resident here in South Florida for the last 25 years, so we've been coming to Deerfield Beach for quite some time. So we do ask the commission to possibly reconsider recycling and including that in. And as a matter of fact, in the city of New York, it is not banned in the city of New York. We are working with them in the recycling program. So that is one good example of where recycling has been and will be a success. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public can speak in this matter?
When the public's done, I want to talk again.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Bob Novak, and I'm with Dart Container Corporation, too. We worked with the city before in developing a recycling program on polystyrene. The program had some success, then we had a problem with the actual recycler went out of business. And our company stepped in and we offered and were willing to pick up the polystyrene that was collected. And it was the city's decision to stop collecting it and didn't want us to pick it up anymore. So before we ban the product, we'd like to continue that conversation. And to the point of Dart Container, we're at 600 West Hillsborough Boulevard. We have 85 employees, and the banning of the products does affect our business and affects people. So I just want to make you aware, we're willing to work with you, and we have worked with you in the past. Banning products is not the solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Is someone else coming forward?
My name is Lowry Abel. I'm also with Dart Container, and I'd like to just
I'm
add.
sorry, if you could give the address. one more
600 West Hillsborough Boulevard. Sorry, you got it. I've been with Dart for 19 years, and I've lived in Texas and Arizona and Florida. I moved around quite a bit, and once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, I come to Deerfield Beach, and I live now in the area as well, but I come to Deerfield Beach to take part in company training or other events, and that office there supports 350 salespeople worldwide. And those 350 salespeople from time to time will come to Deerfield Beach and will stay in the hotels here, they'll eat in the restaurants here, they'll participate in the nightlife here, and they'll stay for 2-3 days a year, sometimes more, because we have training sessions that we conduct there all the time. So even though we only are an office of 85 people, we have a significant impact, I believe, in the hospitality, hotel industry in Deerfield Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Motion to close the public hearing then. Commission comments, anyone? Vice Mayor Miller?
You know, I was just reminded, I'm in the pest control industry for over 40 years. And I'm reminded that chlordane was banned. Killed bugs very well, but it wasn't good for the environment. It was knocked out in 1988. So when we discover that certain products, however big the chlordane industry was, Dow owned it or whatever, however many employees were making their living creating chlordane, they had to do something else because that was found in fish, in birds, in eggs, and such like that. It wasn't good for the environment. So, you know, when something's not good for the environment, to say we spend money in your restaurants, I don't know about that idea. But I could tell you this. 2 years ago, there was talk about recycling. And when I bring up the subject, people say, hey, we're willing to recycle. But then if I don't talk about it, it goes away. So if we're going to talk about stepping up to recycle, don't just step up when it's on the agenda. How come we didn't step up when it faded away? Because you thought I wasn't going to bring it up again? Listen, some people like the Chick-fil-A place, they take and recycle it just like Publix does, and they've made even benches out of this that take their investment and made something and give it to the community, because it wasn't a real winner to recycle it. It costs money to recycle it, not like paper or aluminum or some other metals that you can actually make money recycling things. This is a loss leader. This is a loss to recycle this. It's such voluminous that to even carry it to somewhere, it takes up a whole truck for, you know, a couple of pounds worth of product. But I'm disappointed that the Dart, and it's a great company, except I'm not happy with the product, but they stepped up. They were at some of our shows for the first year we were talking about it, and then they faded away. So, yeah, they can come here with 3 representatives saying they have all these employees and they're a good citizen, but then when our recycling doesn't happen, they don't come and say, hey, we're going to put up some bins. We're going to really make this a model city, so whenever else it happens around the country, we'll show them an alternative to banning it. So they're just talking now, but they're not doing anything. Unless somebody's going to come up and tell me, we're really going to start doing something about it. We're going to make recycling a viable option. Otherwise, this is not good for our health, it's not good for our environment, and I think it's a smoke that we're talking about recycling it unless somebody says, I'm really going to step up. I'll provide VINs to the community. I'll set an example that our community has really taken a step forward for this product that doesn't break down. Because it can be recycled, but it just costs money. It's not economically favorable to the recycler. That's why they're out of business. If they made money, they'd be there collecting it off the side of the road, like they do with tin cans, so aluminum cans, etc. But again, if somebody says, and maybe the manager, was it our fault that we stopped the recycling? Or the way I heard it from the man at the recycling center, the vendors just stopped coming around because it wasn't profitable for them. So which story is right, their story or what I heard from the actual guys that do the recycling, sir?
Yep.
Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Gans, Vice Mayor Miller. Actually, I'm going to have Mr. Gressick, who's the Director of Sustainable Management, come up here to address that issue. And just to preface his response, we are not here to support or not support the policy directive of whatever the City Commission may do with this ordinance. We're just here to clarify the issues we had with the recycling program or aspect of it, and also to address the public's, which are egg carton type of styrofoam, things of that nature. Mr. Gressick.
Yes. Good evening, Chad Gressick, Director of Sustainable Management. As Vice Mayor indicated, that's absolutely correct. We did have a program at the Recycling Drop-Off Center. It was a pilot program, and we did work with the representatives from DART to offer a pilot styrofoam recycling program. The problem arose fairly quickly was we were getting more styrofoam than they were taking. And at a point, we were swimming in it, literally. And we continued to reach out to the representatives of DART. We continued to reach out to the various vendors that they tried to line up to take this material, and it just was not going fast enough. So it came to a point where we had to make a decision, unfortunately, that we could no longer house this material. The problem with styrofoam is it takes up a lot of space. And we just no longer had any more room for it. And again, multiple attempts were made to reach out to the vendors. They weren't coming. They were going out of business. The way we understood it, there wasn't a real good market for the material. So again, we had to make a decision internally that unless you can get someone to take this material on a regular basis, we can't continue to do it here. So we'd be happy to look at that again if there's a vendor that's going to be consistently coming out to the facility and take that material. But, our experience was not positive the last time we did it.
So if I heard you correctly, you said you actually reached out to DART to help
Absolutely.
you out, and still
We
it fell
reached-
on deaf ears. But it doesn't fall on deaf ears when a motion comes up to limit the use in this city. Comes
Yeah.
up then they come up.
We did our best to try to keep the program going, and again, it just we were swimming in the material. We couldn't get rid of it.
I would love to be able to recycle it. I wouldn't be talking about banning the use. But all right, thank you.
Any other commission comments? City Manager, do you have something you wanted to add?
Well, actually, Mr. Gressick, the one thing, do you know what I saw the photograph up here when it was handed to Mayor Gans. It looked like it was it said egg cartons.
It's foam trays
styrofoam.
and egg cartons.
Yes, thank you.
Publix is a different entity in regards to, obviously everybody knows that they recycle as much as they can, and one of the ways that you can make recycling styrofoam more cost effective is to compact it, and I'm sure Publix probably has a vendor that does that for them, because you're talking about a lot of volume and consistent volume. The challenge that we have at our drop-off center, we never know how much we're going to get, and then we get tons, and then again, you have to have a vendor or somebody to come pick that up. Or in some cases, I believe they initially wanted us to deliver it to a location, and again, that adds an extra cost to our operations. And that's obviously something we're trying to avoid, especially when you recycle something, you're trying to avoid cost. So that was another reason why we decided to discontinue. I can't speak on behalf of Publix's program, but I can assure you that their program is probably a little bit more robust than ours, and they have a vendor that is scheduled to come and pick that stuff up.
Well,
regularly.
it was limited to foam trays and egg cartons
Okay.
only.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This may take me a couple minutes to go through this, so bear with me. So it's good and bad. First the good. Vice Mayor, I think it was my very first meeting on March 21, after I was sworn into office, that you told us this issue was going to be coming before us. And you told us to do our homework on this particular issue, and I was actually waiting. I thought this issue was going to come up sooner. I've been waiting for this to come up on our agenda, and it's finally here. And I've been doing my research since then, and I've done a lot of independent research into this particular topic. So bear with me, because I'm going to bore you what I had to go through with myself. But styrene is not a liquid, which I initially had in my mind. It's a resin, and it first started in the 1930s. And then over time in the 1940s, it became more popular when they found a use for it in plastics. And that's when styrene, the use of it really started to balloon in our country in particular. And over time, they were able to find a way to turn it into styrofoam, polystyrene, is what they call it. So the first independent study that I was able to find was back in December 1996 by the Western Australia Commission. Why not the Eastern Australia Commission? I don't know, but the Western Australia Commission. And they published this big, long report here on styrene. And they found it to be an occupational hazard back then, and back in 1996, and they published this booklet of how to use styrene, occupational hazards, what the employee protocol should be for using styrene going forward. That was in 1996. Over time, styrene has become more popular and had more uses, and it was thought to be a cancer-causing agent. And the only known study that I was able to find on that particular issue was in 2011, bear with me, which was from the Dutch EPA, which found no cause for styrene to cause cancer. However, later that year in 2011, the National Toxicology Program, Department of Health and Human Services Report on Carcinogens, 14th edition, stated that it is reasonably anticipated that styrene to be a human carcinogen. It didn't make the link, but it said it's reasonably expected to be a carcinogen, and that was back in 2011. Now today, styrofoam is one of the biggest elements that go into our landfills. It is 30% estimated to go into the landfills here in the United States. Is it biodegradable and how long it takes? The research on that is wildly diverse. If you look at the EPA's website, it says that it could take up to millions of years for styrofoam to be biodegradable. And if you look at other websites, for example, they say it takes only 80 years. I think those are probably the fringes on each side of it, so maybe it's somewhere in between, but it's probably somewhere more in the hundreds of years than in the millions or 80 years. So that's where we stand today. New York, I did read that I thought New York banned it, despite the comment that was made here tonight. And the bans that are going across the country have actually caused the fast food industry, McDonald's in particular, to change their products, and they have gone away from styrofoam. They don't use styrofoam anymore. So that's the good. Here's the bad, and this is where it comes into our ordinance that it's written, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent the city and our vendors from using polystyrene styrofoam. And that is limited by the statute as it's written. It's Florida Statute 500.90, which limits what municipalities can and cannot regulate when it comes to polystyrene. I think the ordinance that we are asked to pass tonight follows the Florida statute and goes as far as it can. Where I have a problem is this proposed ordinance goes a little bit further, because we are asked to ban styrofoam in parks, in the beach, and on the pier. And the problem that I have with that is, how are we going to enforce that? Are we going to have cops out there writing tickets for people who are using styrofoam cups? We don't want to discourage our residents and our visitors from using our beach and our parks and our pier because they have a styrofoam cup or bowl or plate in their hand. How are we going to force this? Are we going to put something on the books that's just for show? Because what we have is in our ordinances already, what we're putting into our ordinance for polystyrene, for styrofoam, when it comes to the beach, we're adding it as the very last regulation for the beach. It's subsection T. However, if you read through our entire regulations when it comes to the beach regulations, these are some of the other regulations we already have on the books with respect to beaches. Subsection A, engage in or play ball on the beach. Now, I'm condensing some of this in the interest of time, but engaging or play ball on the beach, that's banned under our ordinance. Bringing any glass container on the beach, that's subsection C. Subsection I is to enter or be carried in the water at any wet sand beach area wearing, pushing, or towing an inflated inner tube, and it goes on water wings. So you can't take an inner tube or water wings onto our beach, onto our water under this. Using hardboards such as surfboards is prohibited. Swimming 50 yards past the beach, the sand, is prohibited. And then there's something silly as you can't dispose charcoal briquettes on our beach as well. All of these are banned, but I don't think we enforce them. I don't see them being enforced, and we're being asked to add one more item to the code that can't be or won't be enforced as well. So I'm in favor of your ordinance, but I'm not in favor of adding prohibition to the parks, the beach, and the pier that we cannot and will not and hopefully shouldn't enforce.
Is that it, Commissioner Drosky?
For now,
Commissioner
yes,
Battle, and then Vice Mayor Miller.
Just very quickly, Mr. Mayor, and I don't know if staff knows the answer to this or whether or not we need to get the answer from the DART people. Is styrofoam the only product that the DART company here in Deerfield Beach, is that the only product that they produce? Because if you remember, going back, and I don't even want to reopen this, I don't want to be accused again of shutting down a business one way or the other. And if, not really if, I need to know whether or not that company markets or produces any other type of containers other than the polystyrene containers. And if they do, what percentage of their business is the polystyrene container? And I'm basing this on, like Todd said, Commissioner Drosky said, you know, you have to do your homework one way or the other. And I remember having all these people in my office at some point in time, and they showed me some very pretty things one way or the other. And I believe they said some of them were compostable or you could be recycled or whatever the case may be. So in my mind's eye, as I'm looking at this ordinance then, I'm trying to figure out whether or not if we ban the polystyrene, whether or not this particular company can still exist in the city of Deerfield Beach based on the other products that they produce and sell. It does not say, or I'm not getting the feeling that other cities are going to follow our lead if we do this and ban polystyrene one way or the other. So I guess I'm looking for the effect it would have on the business, basically. And that's determined by the product, or if you all could tell me one way or the other, what percentage of this product is your business? Is this all that you do, the polystyrene?
Commissioner Battle, just so we don't, I mean, we can, if we need to, reopen it up to the public.
I don't want to reopen it. I just thought staff might have the answer to these questions.
I'm just looking at their website, and their primary business is exactly this type of product. And judging by either someone who's got a neck issue or is nodding their heads, it looks like the DART people are in agreement with that. But based on their website, that is absolutely their primary line of work.
What happened?
Did you have any other comments?
I just need to know, do they make a compostable or recyclable product?
I'm going to go ahead and reopen this up if that's all right, because I think the only way to get that answer would probably be that, unless the city manager.
Yeah, I was going to answer a question. I would not feel comfortable answering that because I do not know what they produce exactly at this plant because they have plants throughout the U.S.
I will say this, I think just based on the statements tonight, obviously if we were trying to recycle through them, that it's a recyclable product that they're creating now. And their view is, and I think the view is that this material is recyclable. It's just we can't find anybody to do it anymore. And even DART's own website, where it shows locations for recycling, the closest location is north of Sebring, according to their own website. So I think that's more the challenge than what's being produced. Commissioner Parnas and then Vice Mayor Miller?
Yeah, I could see banning cups and food trays and styrofoam, but not all styrofoam. Styrofoam coolers that people take home, I don't see the harm in that. Go to Publix, you buy a cooler for $12 or $15, whatever it is, put ice in it or dry ice, and you have it for the season. I don't think that's a recyclable problem on the beach or in a park. Cups, I can agree with you, Joe. Food containers where you go out and buy lunch and a styrofoam, I can see that because people will throw that away. So I would like to see this tabled until A, we find out if it's the only product they make, and B, whether we can be more specific as to what we're banning in our parks before I could support it. Thank you.
I'm not done.
But before we take we have a motion. We do have a motion, a second. That would be discussion.
I'm not done.
Motion to table, that's the end.
Okay. So Vice Mayor Miller.
Yeah, I think Todd had a good point about the banning it from all parks and such like that, because people could buy it anywhere and intend to go and buy worms to use as bait. It would come in a styrofoam container. I get that. Originally, my intention was the city to tell its restaurants and everybody else not to use it. As I came to realize, our state did not allow it. So our city attorney and staff came up with what they thought would be something we could do. But I would concur with you that it's like Kevin saying we can't walk dogs on our pavers, which people do, and can't have bottles or can't have all these other things. So I don't like having ordinances that you can't enforce. And I can't see spending the time of a BSO officer saying, oh, you have a cooler or you have a cup, get off the pier. I get that. I still think we can have our vendors not use this material. So if that meant send it back to our attorneys and let them modify it, modify this ordinance so that it allows, at least we can have some control over the vendors. We have many things go on at the beach, and when they hand out their product or noodles or whatever they hand out, it's not in a styrofoam container. So I personally would like us to table this, send it back to the attorney, and while it's tabled, if DART wants to say, we're going to have a model recycling thing and come back to us and make a real proposal for real recycling, I'd certainly entertain that. We could have a model for the country if they could come up with it. Maybe that's worth their investment, but symbolically, for us to limit the use of our vendors that have the privilege to work at our city to use recyclable containers when they pass out their products makes sense to me. So if my fellow commissioners would concede, we could table this and send it back to the attorney and let DART and the attorneys work on something else that might be more acceptable and wise for all of us. Does that make sense? I'll make a motion to table that.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Before I just want to point out a couple things. Miami Beach, Val Harbor, Bay Harbor Islands, and Key Biscayne all have styrofoam bans. Coral Gables would have put in place a styrofoam ban, and it was challenged in court because of the new state law that took place. I believe that was in March of 2016 that took place. That has now been thrown out. Coral Gables ban did stand. So the state, it was passed on, and this is according to from what I'm reading here, is the court did uphold that the ban by the state
viability of
was
the ordinance.
unconstitutional. So we do have the ability to do that. But going back to Commissioner Drosky's point, is that we have something that's going to be extraordinarily hard to enforce.
I agree.
Vice Mayor Miller, please.
I got it.
I have the floor. The issue with this is that we already have things going on at the beach that we have a hard time enforcing as it is. Dogs, skateboarding, issues like that are much more obvious than styrofoam. I applaud you, Commissioner Miller, because one, you brought this forward years ago, and we've tried to get one of the major manufacturers in the country who happen to be in Deerfield Beach to try to work with us on this issue. And they did to an extent, and it is a shame that it's kind of gone away. So I do absolutely applaud you with what you're doing. There is other ramifications on this that I don't see covered in here we would have to work out. One, because it's talking about our vendors, we do have a lease with the Pier Restaurant that we have there. So that obviously would have some of an impact or have an effect on what's happening over there. So that's something we'd have to work out. But also the construction use for these types of products as well. If you look at these faux columns that are out front of houses, that's made with, I believe, a type of polystyrene. And it's painted over to look like coral or whatever the case may be. So this may have be throwing a wider net than what we realize. I think we have a motion on the floor to ban, or excuse me, we have a motion on the floor to table.
Call the question.
Before I do, I see that. Did you have something you'd like to add, Commissioner Drosky?
One final comment, yes, going to what you said, Mr. Mayor, is I did write down but didn't mention is correct. We need to work in, if we do go forward with this, to work in some type of grace period to put our vendors on notice that this is banned so that they can phase out this particular project if that's the way we go. But I thought this was just limited to the city and its vendors. So if someone was using a private contractor to put styrofoam columns in their house, this would not apply to them.
That's right. Correct.
Good. The city attorney just reminded me of something, and that when there is a motion to table that's no longer debatable at that point, so we do a roll call then for the motion to table. That's what the kicking was, if you heard that. That was my shin, just so you know. We have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle? Yes. Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
The next is an ordinance amending section 58-1, adding definitions, amending section 5868 relating to additional rollout cart request, amending section 5869 relating to bulk yard waste, amending section 5870 relating to preparation of bulk yard and vegetative waste, amending section 5871 relating to bulk waste.
Comments from the commission before we open it to the public? If we could just get a quick explanation for the public so they understand exactly what we're doing here.
Yeah, Mr. Grassi. Sorry.
Good evening again, Chad Gressick, Director of Sustainable Management. So over the last year or so, we implemented a new solid waste management system, and that system has allowed us to collect a lot of data in regards to our services and what we do and what we collect. And those data points have allowed us to make some operational improvements, as well as look at our services and our charges and so on and so forth. And through that process, we've obviously looked at ways to enhance our services and enhance our program. So what we've done is we look at our ordinance on a regular basis now, and we make recommendations on making sure that the rates are competitive, making sure that the definitions are up to date and current. And so basically that's what this is. This is a refresher of our ordinance to bring it in line with current standards and regulations.
Did you want to introduce the gentleman standing behind you?
Sure.
Is that your bodyguard?
It is, actually. This is my assistant director, Mr. David Eberlin, and I wanted him to come up to talk specifically about what this ordinance, one of the main things it does is in regards to adding a cap to our roll-off charges. So with that, I'll let Mr. Eberlin explain a little bit on why we're doing that and the reasoning.
Using the information that we have currently on the work that we do in roll-off,
we can see our weight averages and what the revenue does is as far as costing each account. And on the last 8 months, we lost $66,000 because we didn't have enough charges to cover the disposal. So what the cap is based on is the average amount of tons in that particular haul, and anything above it is charged at the tonnage rate for the number of tons over. And that way, there is no loss. It's a standard practice. It's widespread in the industry. It's called weight caps, is what they are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eckel. Any comments from the commission before we open it to the public? Open up for the public to speak. Anyone from the public like to comment on this item? Not seeing anyone, like to close the public portion to be heard. Commission comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle? Yes. Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnes?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Number 14?
14.
Do you want me to read it? A resolution of the City Commission, I'm sorry? Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida? Am I in the wrong one?
We're on the consent agenda.
You better not have me read it then, Andy. Oh, God.
Well, you were doing so well. No, we're on the consent.
Yes.
Any polls?
Any pulls from the consent agenda? Commissioner
Seeing none, I make a
Drosky?
motion to approve the consent agenda.
One moment before we do that, we have Commissioner Drosky.
I didn't see the light.
Quick on the trigger there. I'd like to pull 13, 19, 20, and 22.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 13, 19, 20, and 22.
Second.
We open up to the public for the remaining items on the consent agenda. Anyone like to comment on any of the items minus 13, 19, 20, and 22? Not seeing anyone coming forward. Like to close that and do a roll call vote then for the remaining items of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnes?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Commissioner Drosky for item number 13.
The reason that I pulled number 13 is that I just wanted a short explanation from staff, not only from myself, for the public, what we're doing on this particular item.
Sure. Again, this is part of our ongoing evolution. When we installed our management system, we're now able to look at more data, look at tonnages that we collect, look at how long it takes us to service certain containers and so on and so forth. And we also updated our ordinance to remove rates that were no longer used, to add new rates for services that we now provide, standardizing rates. We've reduced several rates in this proposed fee structure. As Mr. Everland indicated, we are adding a cap to our roll-off collections. Again, that is to make sure that we are not losing money when we haul a box that's extremely heavy. And one of the things that Mr. Everland did not mention is that when we do haul a box that's very heavy, it results in a safety hazard as well. So that's another way for us to sort of prevent these types of things to happen. If we indicate to the vendor that there's going to be an upcharge for that extra tonnage, hopefully that will discourage them from overloading the box and creating a safety issue. So really what this ordinance does is it cleans a lot of things up. It brings rates, it standardizes rates, it simplifies rates, it reduces some rates, and it adds the cap to the roll-off collection structure.
Okay. Thank you. The reason I'd like to go through some of these is, if everyone recalls, putting the cell tower in the village of Hillsborough Park was an item on the consent agenda at one particular point in time. So whenever staff can, give it a little extra explanation on some of these topics, just for my purposes and for the public, that's why I pulled this particular item. So
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Make a motion.
So, and I'll make, do you have public hearing?
Maybe you have to make a motion.
Anyone from the public like to comment on item number 13? Not seeing anyone like to close the to the public. Do we want to do this all, hear from everything all together, and then hear from the public, and then do it as a group, or want to do it individually?
Let's hear them all.
All three of them? All right.
Oh, yeah, the next.
There's 4 of them. Commissioner Drosky, number 19, you'd like to discuss?
Number 19 relates to telecommunications, and I just wanted to, what we're doing here is this is for the T-Mobile equipment on the water tower out west, and what we're being asked to do is to renew their contract for 5 additional terms at 5 years each, and what it provides is additional revenue to the city, but it has a 5% per year escalator. So I just wanted to ensure that that was market reasonable.
They would, actually,
Yeah.
my understanding it's pretty good. It's actually slightly above, but they would know.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners. David Santucci, Assistant City Manager. I go back and forth with these cell tower companies whenever we're renegotiating or they're asking for anything additional. The 5% is actually, it's pretty high. It's about on the high end of what we typically get as in terms of escalation. To give you some sort of idea, I've got another one that we are looking at right now where they're talking to me and saying that they think 2 is reasonable, so which I do not, obviously. So this is actually a very good escalation for us, and that's why it's remained consistent for this renewal.
Okay. I'd also like to add that the cancellation provision in this contract gives T-Mobile an out, the way it's written, basically for any reason at any time. So they can, if the technology changes and they don't have a need for it, they can pull the plug, but we'll deal with that when it comes.
Yeah, they generally demand a lot of flexibility on that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Santucci? Anyone from the public like to comment on item number 19? Not seeing anyone, like to close that and move forward to item number 20.
Number 20, again, I just wanted a short commentary from staff, what we're being asked to do here. I didn't quite picture the area that we were talking about and what we're paying to lease.
Yes, while Mr. Good's coming up to the microphone, I will address this. Commissioner Drosky, this was something, you don't even have to sit down, be really brief. This was something back in the 1990s that the city decided to do because unfortunately, the Florida East Coast Railway was not maintaining that area along Dixie Highway, and it was an absolute eyesore. We wanted to go in, plant trees, and maintain it, and the FEC said, yeah, sure, you can do that, but for a price. From what I understand, I was not here. Maybe Andy might be able to elaborate on that. So this is basically updating that lease that continues. And with that, I'll let Mr. Good discuss his limited debate with the FEC.
Yes. Again, good evening. Thomas Good Environmental Services. So we do know that the FEC is probably the oldest landlord in the state of Florida. So they rule a lot of things. But they own the corridor along the FEC Railway, and it butts up against Dixie Highway. And so what has been the prior lease is basically there's about 25 foot from the center line of the railway out to Dixie Highway, which is what we would be we were doing aesthetic improvements to. So now they did double tracks. And what happened is when they put the 2 tracks in, it kind of shifted that 25 foot from center line of the railway. And what happened is that we lost a little bit of the area between Hillsborough and 4th Street, but not enough that doesn't allow us to continue to do aesthetics. And more importantly, we actually have a sidewalk that's along Dixie Highway that we did not lose as well. So for pedestrian traffic, we didn't have that impacted. The fortunate thing for us is that at around 4th Street, the track kind of went to the other side. So the only thing that we got impacted by actually was only a 2-block section, and we probably lost maybe about 10 or 15 feet of space. And so what they've done is they've basically readjusted our lease, in accordance with the loss of the use of that bit of property and re-entered into a lease agreement with us. It's in perpetuity until one of us say we don't want to do it anymore.
So basically, we pay for the privilege of beautifying Dixie.
Well, if we don't, then they will not do anything to that property except just keep it bare, and you'll just see nothing but the tracks and the train.
I understand.
City manager?
Yeah, and this also, if the city commission desires, as part of the upcoming budget process, this will also allow us to install a fence on what would be the west side of the tracks to prevent children that do go from the different communities to the middle school or to the middle school park or anywhere else, because we do have some concerns about kids going across those tracks where they're not supposed to, and it's very easy right now. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Good.
Anyone from the public care to comment? Mr. Good, if you could stand by, I have more questions. Anyone from the public like to close it to the public right now? When you inquired with them about this, what was their reaction? Because it's an unusual circumstance, and FEC Railroad is coming in trying to look to do a lot of things within all of the cities along this pathway. I find it a little hard to swallow the fact that we have to pay money to maintain their property, for the privilege of maintaining their property, considering all the things they're asking of cities to do, and our ability to try to talk with people outside of just the city, but at higher areas of government. Is there any way we can try to get this type of agreement, this antiquated, ridiculous agreement, to go away in the spirit of cooperation for any future things that they might need of us as they try to expand?
We can always reach out and make the request to them of what considerations that we can get in regards to anything that they may do with us. Much of what they do, though, is they actually own a lot of that right away. They actually own from Dixie Highway, from the edge of pavement all the way to the other side of the railroad tracks, which is, and they will operate only within their right of way. So we are actually encroaching upon them, and that's how they see this. But we can always ask them if there's a way that we can recreate this lease in such a way that they would,
Well, perhaps a good time to do that might be the time that they're asking of us for concessions on anything they need from us as they try to expand. And we should remind them of this ridiculous contract and see if there's any way that we can get them to change in exchange for anything they may need of us.
Okay.
Commissioner Drosky, do you have a comment? Oh, you just flashing me?
Commissioner Parnas hit my button.
He presses a lot of people's buttons, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
City manager?
Yeah, we can certainly try that, but for the most part, the FEC, they don't need a lot of cooperation from the city. In fact, Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about some of your experience with the FEC and trying to negotiate some items?
Yeah, I think they exist to make FP&L and FDLT seem reasonable. They're really the most difficult, and they have been incredibly successful historically in having every state statute drafted to benefit them at the exclusion of everyone else. That's another problem. But you know what? At some point, we need to be aware of it, and at some point, they may actually need something from us, some sort of cooperation from us. We could bring it up. I think it's a good point. At least keep it in mind.
City manager, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Good, if we ask the city commission to table this till June 6th, do you think it'd have any dire impact on what we're doing?
I know that they're anxious to get this completed, but if it is tabled, I think it would still be within the window of opportunity for us.
Yeah, maybe we'll certainly go back one more time if the city commission would like and see what we can do. Not opposed to doing that. See if there's any concessions we could get.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Good. Did anyone from the public like to comment on item number 20? Not seeing anyone, to close that, and move on to 22 then, Commissioner Drosky?
Yes, the last one on the consent agenda, item 22, is the overhaul of the cultural committee. The only question that I have is that we're now, each commissioner and mayor gets 2 appointments each for a total of 10, and then there are 3 alternates that are supposed to be appointed on a rotating basis, but I don't see anywhere in here how that rotating basis is determined.
I'll have Ms. Petty address that with the cultural committee. And this was something that did go through the cultural committee, and they did
Correct.
Have input on this, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Kara Petty, Assistant City Manager. Basically, this will come in as the newly elected officials come in, so yourself, Mr. Parnas, and then Mayor Gans would have the alternates. So you'd still get your 2 and then your alternate.
Okay, maybe we can just tidy it up, because I don't think it says that.
I think you're right. Well, why don't you just approve it as amended?
Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion.
But before you do, anyone from the public care to comment?
Sorry.
On item number 22? Not seeing anyone coming forward. Close that. I've boxed this into a bit of a hole here because we have 4 now, so if anybody has any individual issues with any one of the 4, speak now, or we're going to do this as a group voice call, if that's all right. Anyone have any issues with any of the 4?
Yeah, but I think we're going to put the amendment on number 22,
Yeah,
right?
So,
No, that's considered, yes.
so 13, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was trying
Oh,
to.
City Manager, go right ahead.
I just wanted to ask the commission for clarification on item 20, which one was that? 20, item number 20, dealing with the FEC. Do you want to table it, or do you just want to move forward?
That was going to be part of my motion.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Mayor, I understand what you're thinking, but I don't know that we have anything we could trade for it at this point. I'm thinking move right along, and when we
Okay.
do have something, is when we can maybe
So you're moving,
get some
13,
consideration.
19,
I'd say just do
20,
it all together.
Commissioner Parnas, did you have any? No? Commissioner Drosky?
I like the mayor's suggestion to give the old college try one more time to go back to FEC. It may be a fait accompli, but I like to fight. I mean, this is $21,000 on behalf of the residents that we're spending. If we can take one more shot and we're told that there's no penalty for it, I don't see the harm in trying.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Drosky. So let's just handle each one of these individually. We'll do a voice call if that's all right. We'll come back to each one individually, but I would make a motion to, or I would look for a motion for item number 20 to be tabled for the time being. Would that be appropriate,
So moved.
City Attorney, as opposed to,
Well, if,
or
what you could do a roll call on 13, 19, 20, and 22, with the action on 20 being to table and the action on the other 3 to approve, if everyone agrees.
That's fine.
okay?
No.
No? All right, let's do, we'll handle these individually. Item number 13, all in favor, say aye.
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 Not seeing any nays. 13 is approved unanimously. Item number 19, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone, any nays? Not seeing anyone, it's approved unanimously. Item number 20.
Motion to approve.
We have, let's do, all right, we want to do a roll call on that one? Let's do a roll call on item number 20, if that's all
I
right.
don't want to defeat it.
That's all right. Well, your input's pretty important here.
Well, I think, frankly, the 2 alternatives are, one of the, is to either approve it or table it, not to defeat it. And not that you couldn't-
So I think we're looking for a motion to table item number 20. Commissioner Battle?
Yes. My only concern, and I guess, where are you, Tom? If we table this, what's the timeline for us getting this thing back to FEC and doing what we have to do? See, because that Bright Line train should be running any day. And I am afraid if we put this out and we can't get back to them to do something until September, we're defeating the purpose here.
Well,
Putting
I,
children in harm's way?
Yes, putting children in harm's way.
and again, they haven't given a clear, specific date for this to be approved, but they have been very aggressive in getting it done because this agreement has actually been terminated since September of 2015. So we actually have been going day to day to day, literally, without an agreement, with an assumption that we would come to an agreement. And so they've been pretty aggressive in trying to get that closed up. And so that's about what I can tell you at this point. So putting it off another 2 weeks or so, I really don't know how they're going to react to that, but they didn't give me a specific, this is a deadline date at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Good. City Manager?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because that was one point I forgot to clarify in my beginning statements. A couple of years ago, the FEC was actually coming to the individual municipalities along the FEC Railroad corridor, asking the different cities to approve them to allow put in cell phone towers. And where we were catching them is they would be allowed to put those towers in if they were only for their operation. But of course, they were putting them in for other rentals from other telecom providers. So that's why we never actually re-entered it into the contract, and we let it go for as long as we did. Unfortunately, I don't believe they're moving forward with the cell towers, so that's one of the reasons why we brought it back. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, because that was important.
City Attorney, can you give us some recommendations on this? Because I think right now we're...
I see two alternatives that you presented. I think, well, obviously you can defeat it, but that doesn't seem to be...
Outside of defeating it, what else we
Well,
have?
either continue it to the next meeting or approve it.
Continuing to the next meeting or approving it?
I make a motion to approve. Let's see if we get a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. We can do a roll call.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
No.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
No. So the item's passed. So item number 22, we're going to do a voice call on that. Or do we want to do a voice call or we want to do a roll call on this?
Just motion to approve as amended.
We have a motion to approve as amended. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Okay, we're now on to the general items.
There's a resolution appointing Perry Cohen as an alternate member to the Marine Advisory Board. Sponsored Commissioner Drosky.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Does it need to be, does it have a public hearing? Anyone from the public like comment on item number 23? Not seeing anyone coming forward. Close that. So we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
Next is a resolution appointing Kelly O'Meara Hampton as alternate member to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Anyone from the commission want to comment on that? Anyone from the public like to comment on that? I see anyone coming forward. Like to close the public portion. We have a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Item number 20.
Yeah. Consideration to approve voting delegates to 2017-18 Board of Directors for Broward League of Cities.
Motion to approve.
Oh, yeah, where is that? Second.
We have anyone from the public like to comment on this for our voting delegations? No? Do we want to announce what they are? Commissioner Drosky?
This is an add-on. I haven't seen the backup yet. Can someone tell me what we're voting on, please?
Well, according to what it says here, the Broward League of Cities is requesting the city of Deerfield Beach appoint a director, alternate, and second alternate. Commissioner Battle and former Commissioner Rosenzweig represented as delegates last year. This item will be placed on the it's on our agenda now, so not a yay or nay, it's who's going to do it.
I'll volunteer for the League of Cities.
I don't have any problem doing the League of Cities. I just need an alternate.
So-
I'll do either one, whatever your choice is,
Yeah.
I'll do the other.
Okay.
So we'll have, so we're looking at Commissioner Battle to continue as the director. The first alternate then would be Commissioner Parnas, who would be the third alternate, or second alternate, I guess you'd say in this.
Does that usually go to new commissioners?
I'm saving
Wait a-
the
wait a
rookie
minute.
hazing for more painful stuff, quite frankly.
That's out of my backup.
It's in ours.
They do take attendance,
You know
by the way.
what? I'll put myself in as a second alternate, or at least volunteer to be as the second alternate for this. If I'm going to save the torture for Commissioner Drosky for something more meaty. So I have confidence that all of you will be there. So
I have a question. Are we allowed to go even if we're not a?
Yes.
You can attend the meetings. So we
yes,
don't have
this
to be
is for voting.
just for. Yeah.
This is for voting.
You could just approve that by acclamation then if you'd like.
So, a voice call on this then, all in favor for Commissioner Battle, Commissioner Parnas, and then myself. Everyone, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposing say nay. Not seeing any, it's opposed, it's approved 5-0. And I believe we have one other item, the Ocean Breeze
Yeah,
reconsideration.
26 is a request for reconsideration of the Ocean Breeze, the 5 Ocean Breeze variances. Let me tell you how just kind of recap how this works. At the last meeting, you defeated it. According to our rules of procedure, Robert's rules. At the next meeting, a member of the, I'm sorry. Thank you.
A member of the prevailing side, that would only be two of you, Commissioner Barrow and Commissioner Drosky, can make a motion for reconsideration, and anyone else can make a motion to second it. If it's moved and seconded and approved, what you have done is you haven't actually reconsidered the item, you reconsidered your vote, and basically have erased that vote, and so you are in a posture as if you have not voted at all. And then at that point, there are two ways that you can proceed. If you want to vote on the evidence before you, that was already before you, you can then vote, because you can say, look, we all heard the same evidence, now I changed my mind, I'm voting this way. Or if you felt that you wanted to hear more testimony, you could reopen. My recommendation that if you reopen, that it be done at the next meeting, so there can be some notice provided to the public, so that they would know that you're actually going to reopen it. But if you don't reopen it, you can hear it tonight. I don't know if, is that clear? Is that your one? Yeah.
I second it. She made the motion, I second
You made a motion for reconsideration.
it. I
and-
second it.
Does this all go to the public?
No, the public, see, at this point, the public part has already been heard.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Can we have we have a comment beforehand. Is that all right with discussion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes, I met after our last hearing with the applicant on this particular matter, and the applicant readily admits that last hearing was not their best effort, and there were some assumptions made about our process and how we operate and how the approvals work that were not taken into consideration before that particular meeting. And they have since retained an attorney and has represented that there are legal hardships with respect to the variances for this particular piece of property. All I'm doing tonight by approving the motion for reconsideration is allowing the applicant to come in for a new meeting and make their case to us, because it was not anyone that was here certainly knows that was not their best effort. Anyone who's on the dais knows that was not their best effort. And I don't view this as a second bite at the apple, because if it was, then I wouldn't be in favor of this. What it is an opportunity to give them to make the legal presentation that was lacking at the last meeting. The counsel for the applicant is going to not only have to have their A game, they're going to have their A+ game. at the next hearing. I have not prejudged this. I don't know what he's going to say with respect to the variances for or against, but I'm holding him to a very high standard to come in and to prove the legal hardship for these variances at the next hearing, if that's the way that this commission decides to go. But that's the reason for my vote for this. Not that I'm backtracking, but to give them the opportunity, and then we'll see based upon what presentation is made if I decide to vote for or against the variances at that time.
Thank you. We have Commissioner Battle first, and then Commissioner Parnas.
Yes, for the record, I want everybody out there to know now that I did meet with the lobbyists on this effort, Mr. Dwayne Dickerson, and as well as the builders for this particular project. I just want you to know that for the record. I'm declaring that so we don't get into any ethics violations one way or the other. But the turning point in my decision on this, basically, it came after I met with staff. And having met with staff and then subsequently meeting with the city manager, I thought it was in the best interest of this community and of that project that we give them another shot to come in, because quite frankly, what we were hearing sitting up here on the dais just did not measure up. I have much more information now than I had then. So that is the reason why I put the motion on the floor to reconsider the Ocean Breeze project.
Commissioner Parnas.
Well, do we take a vote now?
Well, if, once you're finished discussion, and I think we can see which way it's going, and if it's approved, there will be a motion for reconsideration. At that point in time.
I can make a motion to
What?
approve it now or to table to the next meeting.
Or you can make a motion to reopen the hearing and set a date for that. My recommendation would be at the next hearing.
Okay.
Not this evening, at the next meeting. That would be my recommendation.
Vice Mayor Miller.
I'm going to be speaking for this motion to reopen, but I may be incorrect, but I thought there was sort of a, for the ones that want to develop it, I thought there was a timeline that they wanted to get this moving as soon as possible, if they were to be approved. Can I ask their representative if that's the case? Because I thought we were going to deal with this, if we reopened it, I thought we'd deal with it tonight. We only had, everybody that spoke for it, and it was a matter of not showing hardship for the variances, but I think they have a presentation possibly ready to go tonight.
Yeah, well, my recommendation would be, unless you want to reopen the hearing tonight, which is not my recommendation, I would recommend that no one that no one speak at this point in time. And let me explain the reason why. Even though I view it as a small risk, given the status and the public, if you reopen the hearing tonight without noticing anyone, remember this wasn't even on the agenda. If there are opponents out there, and there were one or two, and I grant you it's a small risk, but I'm here to tell you what I think the best legal process is, that you'd be opening up a hearing, and well, who's the only people here to talk about it? Those who want to talk in favor of it. So there's not much of a reopening of it. There's a kind of a due process issue that could be raised by an opponent. They could say, if I would have known that you were going to discuss it again, I would have shown up.
So you think it's for the benefit of the applicant to give the full...
Well, I think they disagree with me on whether it benefits them or not. But I think it's in the benefit of strict adherence to law. And I'm generally cautious on this stuff, and I've been kind of kidded about it. But my cautious approach would be not to reopen tonight. If for the reason I indicated, you do put it at risk. Is it a huge risk? No, but you put the approval at risk.
Can I ask the representative of the applicant?
My recommendation is at this point that you not. I mean, because once you're opening up the process again, and I apologize. That's not that I'm trying to muzzle them. I'm just trying to get this done in the most legally, defensible way.
But Vice Mayor Miller, obviously I voted for this. and I'm pleased to see we're going to be reconsidering it. But I would have a hard time tonight supporting anything, certainly supporting hearing it tonight. I'd rather
I was
take
going
the
to say
city
yield
attorney's
to the advice of the
recommendation.
attorney that's got us this many years down the road. Well
Should we
done.
talk about how many years Andy's been?
No,
on?
we don't want to talk about it.
Take a vote on the reconciliation.
We do, we do.
And maybe
yes.
concert the next meeting?
Yeah, the
One
first
at a
thing
time,
to do is get it
please.
reconsidered, get it reconsidered.
Can
First
we
thing.
reconsider? I'll make a motion to reconsider.
She made it already.
No,
She
she has to make it because
Okay,
it's her
I thought she did.
reconsideration.
She did,
Yes,
and
I
I
make a
seconded it.
motion to reconsider, and Commissioner Miller.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Thank you.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
The next thing, if you, well,
We're
Make a
looking
motion
for
to
a
bring it up in 2 weeks.
you have
Next
a mo-
meeting?
We have a motion to bring it up in
At the next meeting?
the next
The
meeting.
next meeting.
have it on the agenda as as to reopen the hearing, rehear it, and then vote. So that'll be in.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have our comments by our city manager and city attorney.
Yes. Good evening again, Mayor Gans, Vice Mayor Miller.
If you want to pause a moment while
Commissioners.
people clear out, we give you the mic and everybody wants to
Yep.
leave, so
Hey, that's
don't take it
great.
personal.
Yeah, I like that. So I'd like to talk about my raise.
The only raise you're gonna get if I put a candle under your seat.
All right, city manager,
Right.
take away.
Yeah, thank you. First thing I'd like to talk about before Andy steps away.
No.
I always feel lonely talking up here by
No, I'm
myself.
going to stay in all your comments, Burgess. I'm gonna
Yes, yes.
go later in the mayor's.
You know, Sunday evening, I would like to credit Broward Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Department. They did an excellent job in responding to the Club Tropicante issue. As a result of that, we have been in a litigation with the club for the past several years, and it's also been in our special magistrate process with code compliance. So that morning, early that morning, I spoke with Mr. Morotis, and he's going to take the following actions, and I'll let him speak to it since it is.
Well, we have been aggressively pursuing the, as a nuisance, and really, we determined that we thought the best procedure to follow at that time, and at that time we thought the quickest, was through the special magistrate to revoke their certificate of use, which basically is their license to do business in the city. We are close to the end of that process. It has taken us longer than we had hoped, but these things have been fiercely litigating. We've been probably litigating with them, I would say, for 5 or 6 years. Maybe underestimating that. We, as you know, we were successful on the closing, winning on the requiring them to close at 2, not at 4. But after talking to the city manager and recognizing really the fantastic work of BSO in this, and also the fact that BSO officers were put in harm's way that evening, I've talked to Mr. Michelson and added him to expand to determine, to review again, in addition to what we're doing before the special magistrate, to revoke their license to do business, to review, to determine whether a civil action in circuit court is also a feasible way of doing it, and that's what we're moving forward. At this point, I would recommend that our discussions be private, with here, but we're going that extra step. But I do want to add my compliments to the work and the bravery of the BSO officers.
Before we move off that, if I may comment, city manager, and look for a little, because there's a popular lie that's floating around out there that this closure from the 4 a.m. to 2 a.m. was something that this commission, well, actually, I give them credit. They try to credit me for that. That we were the ones that led the way on this, and that there were alternative motives for the reason we were closing down 4 a.m. A certain number of 4 a.m. clubs in the city down at 2 a.m. And the bottom line is this started many, many years ago when they were annexed into the city of Deerfield Beach. The actual owners of the club themselves approached the city of Deerfield Beach and asked for a 7-year grace period. Am I accurate in this so far?
And they received 5, yes, yeah.
Yes, they requested 7. It was negotiated to 5, and they agreed.
And they signed documents.
They signed documents, and they agreed that they would close at 2 a.m. after the 5-year moratorium that we gave them. When that time came up, which happened to be at the time that I was sitting up here, and Commissioner
2012.
Vice Mayor Miller and I were sitting up here, that their time was up. They decided to try to fight it. Despite the fact that this was something they agreed to, documents were signed, we went to court with them. A couple of the owners like to spread a lie and try to say that that is not the facts of the case. That is absolutely the facts of the case. As a matter of fact, we won this case in court, and they were required to close at 2 a.m. Those are the simple facts. They approached the city of Deerfield Beach 10 years ago.
2005, I believe.
2005. So 12 years ago, they
5 or
approached
2007.
to ask for a 7-year
Yes.
break, negotiated down to 5. When the 5 years are up, they wanted to go against their promise and their word and their signed documentation. Took us to court. We won, and now they're still grumbling about it. And Tropicante happens to be one of those that's been a part of this, and they seem to feel that they can operate differently. So I just wanted to at least put that out there.
Yes, thank you. I just have a few more items.
Good job.
The other one before you step away.
No, I'm not going anywhere,
okay.
Bert. You should think of
Okay,
it.
I wasn't sure. This is
Doesn't matter.
an item that the city commission has been tabling for the last, I believe, 2 meetings. I believe the first time it was on the meeting was at our second meeting in April, and it's dealing with the request for proposals number 2016-17/19 with the award to the IBI Group for the development of the Dixie Highway Business Residential District Implementation Plan. Staff and I have been in discussions over the past few weeks with this and with the timing, and also looking at what we were able to do with Pioneer Grove project. We would like to recommend to the city commission, and it may have to come back at another time, but we would like to recommend that we no longer move forward with this implementation plan with a consultant, and staff would move forward using elements from the Pioneer Grove plan to work with the property owners along that corridor, and then we would look to reallocate that money into potential hardscape or other more important things for the DBR. So,
If you want, you could add to the agenda the rejection of all proposals if you'd like.
So you want us to make a motion to approve what you just said, or we reject
well,
going
I
forward?
guess I didn't want you to just read it on an agenda, so I wanted to bring it up at the end, and if we can put that on the next one,
Sure, you
just
can do it on
general
the next agenda.
direction, if there's no
So you-
problem doing that. Because the reason why I was asking for that,
No, we can't have any side discussions.
no, that's it. The reason why I'm asking for this is because it was tabled to come back at a certain time when we received notification from the State Attorney General's office, but we don't really need that at this point because we feel we can move forward without it. So, the other thing I'd like to talk about is setting up a date for the actual strategic planning meeting with the entire commission to see what day. I know we've been trying to figure this out individually, and it just doesn't seem to be working real well. So we would still like to try to do this the week of June 5th. And wondering, because I know a few of you do have part-time day jobs in addition to being a city commissioner and mayor. So we'd like to see what time we could start this during the weekday, if it is possible. And if not, then what the earliest time we could start. And just to remind you, Tuesday, June 6th is a city commission meeting. Because this will probably take anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. If you want to be here
But-
till 1, 2 in the morning, that's fine.
Vice Mayor Miller, did you,
I guess I have a question of how many hours you were thinking about this session to be.
We think no more than 3 to 5 hours, probably closer to 3. Yeah, because remember, you're talking about in a group setting, the 5 of you coming up with, when you meet with a consultant individually next week, kind of gives him an idea or them an idea of where you individually want to move as district commissioners and as a mayor. And then the idea of this group facilitation is to bring that into one cohesive vision, mission, and goal to create that strategic plan or business plan.
Is
for
that
the
open to the
city.
public, or is that just?
Yes, it is open to the public.
I don't have a problem with the 5th.
Monday the 5th? I don't have a problem.
Actually, the 6th would probably work better
6th
for
is an
me.
evening.
I know, but if we do, well, you're talking about the daytime, correct? Or would this
I mean,
bleed into the evening?
Well, it can be a daytime, but it's
It's a long day for everyone?
it's a long day for.
I don't really care about that.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, it is what it is. If the will of the commission is to do the 5th, I can do the 5th. Commissioner Battle?
Oh, I was going to tell you that the 5th was fine with me. I'm not going to go into the reason why the 6th is not, but the 5th is fine.
Okay.
Probably.
What,
Tom,
yeah, I
you
guess,
need to
so
figure
now
out,
we have the
yeah.
date, now we need to determine what time you would like to do it.
I'm available all day.
How about right after lunch, 2, 5 or something?
I like that idea better. That way we start and then we just go until we're done.
2 o'clock is fine.
And that way if we start in the morning, there's no.
I was thinking
end.
1.
2 o'clock. All
2 o'clock on the,
The 5th.
on the 5th? That's fine.
right, we'll go ahead and book it.
Book it.
All right.
Book them down.
Anything else, city manager?
Yes, I do. Just another announcement on you also are going to have a busy week on June 20, let's see, what day is that? The week of June 19th, because, of course, June 20th, you do have your regular city commission meeting, but on the 21st and 22nd, we have worked with your schedules, and those dates seem to work for the 2 budget workshops that we have. So the one question, we normally start these around 6:30, and I hate to do this, but is there any way we can move that up to a 6:15 start?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, just because we have a lot of ground to cover. Yeah.
I'm afraid.
The 21st and 22nd.
Can you just remind
Yes.
staff to update our calendars, please?
Yes. Yeah, because I'm not sure why they're not on there.
They're online.
They the budget meetings?
They're on mine.
Yeah.
So we still
So
about budget?
we'll move it up to 6:15.
Okay,
21st and 22nd?
correct.
Yes, it's a Wednesday and Thursday. I know it's a busy week, but I thought just go ahead and get them over with, and then we can start right away in development of the proposed budget. And then, other than that, I don't have any other items to bring up. Mr. Morotis, do you?
I do not.
Did I miss anything over there, Dave or Kara? No. All right, thanks.
Commissioner Miller, or excuse me, Vice Mayor Miller, let me start with you. Comments?
No comment.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes, I have some comments. In October is I believe it's the 12th, it's the next Walk Kids to School Day. I would like we have so many schools in our district, in our city. It would be nice if each commissioner could take a school. We won't hit them all. Last year, we only did the one, which was Deerfield Park. But it'd be very nice if every commissioner could take and they have it all planned out. So you won't be there more than 2 hours, maybe 1.5 hours at the most. and give all our schools a chance to participate. Bernie, I'm giving you Park Ridge.
Thank you.
If you all would help me out, that would be a great
Done,
thing.
consider it done.
Thank you, appreciate it. On Friday afternoon, well, Thursday and Friday, we started on Thursday. Dave Morantz, if you could just stand up for a minute and let me give you the kudos that you're deserving. The McDougal Foundation came to me and they wanted to do a financial management workshop for high school kids. And I called on Dave, and from then on, it was Dave's project. He just took it and he ran with it. Stonegate Bank, which he works for, brought in at their expense the presenter, Mr. Michael Braithwaite. Very good. The kids are still talking about it in the schools, Dave, and how it went, and the mayor came out. How it went is that evening we had, Thursday evening, we had it for adults, but we still managed to get some kids from the teen center. They came over. And on that Friday, they were at the middle school and the high school. A very stellar event, and Dave, thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Broward Sheriff, your efforts at Saturday's pre-prom, where's David? Even though I have to get to David, and we're going to do some things, but on Saturday, they were top-notch. I believe I had not met the sergeant that was on duty, but when we had to press them into action, they rose to the occasion. So I want to thank you all for that. And finally then, we did Career Day at Deerfield Park Elementary on Friday. And I was, to my surprise, Mr. Manager, I had a lot of kids there that want to go in or express an interest about marine biology or whatever. And I was just trying to think how we could get them involved in some of the things that the Marine Advisory Board is doing. There were at least 6 kids who expressed that interest. But the biggest thing that went over very well, unfortunately, I did my session on government and leadership and how to get into the field. But those kids who, Mr. Tynes brought his hearse and just knocked my presentation out of the door because they took off to that hearse like nothing. Thank you.
Is that it? City Manager, you had some comments?
Yeah, I believe Mr. Miller's left for the night, but we'll certainly pass that on. And one thing, you're talking about marine biology. Of course, it won't be prepared for this upcoming summer camp session, but for the following year, we actually discussed, not to get ahead of us on the budget, but we did discuss about creating not something just specific to marine biology, but something that's all-encompassing of environmental, marine biology, things like that, as a mini camp.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
No comment?
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. May 29 is Memorial Day, so in addition to having our barbecues and vacations and an extra day off of work, please take a minute out of your day to remember the servicemen and women and those that supported our country over the years. For all that we have and just the opportunity for us to sit here and debate, tonight, all of the issues that we have without any duress, I think is a great attribute to this country. So please take a minute to remember those that fought so we can have the privileges that we do today. Saturday, June 3rd is my next office hours from 10 to 12 here at City Hall. Please call the city manager's office if you'd like to book an appointment. I know a couple of appointments are already taken at this point. Last week, there was a meeting with the MPO, and they are really sneaky folks because you have to bury down into their agenda. It's not like our agenda where we have a very clear title and the backup material online. They have it online, but you really have to hunt and peck for it. And the titles to their action items are so vague, in my opinion, that I almost found it by chance. But when was it? Last Thursday, they had their meeting, and on the list of their priority projects was Southwest 10th Street, lo and behold, project near and dear to my heart. And I wasn't able to attend because I found this at the last minute, but thank you, Mr. City Manager, for sending staff to the meeting. And staff reported back that Southwest 10th Street actually went down in the priority of rankings with the MPO, went from number 9 to number 10. But I guess more importantly, they have not identified any funding sources for the design or construction of Southwest 10th Street. That, as we all know, could change any minute, any time, but the fact that it went down is a good sign for Deerfield Beach, at least for now. So I just wanted to report, as I promised, my constituents, that I would at every step of the turn for Southwest 10th Street. Also on Thursday, June 1, is the code enforcement workshop that I'm having for District 4 at Constitution Park at 7 o'clock p.m. I know there's a press release that already went out. I'll be getting the workout as well. Staff, and code enforcement will be there. We'll get some of the parameters, which I'll announce to you soon. But that is finally being announced. In addition, May 25th at 7 p.m. in my District 4 is the premiere of the Baywatch movie, which was partially filmed here in Deerfield Beach at the Cineopolis Movie Theater. Is the red carpet premiere for that motion picture. You can actually attend, I believe, for $20. It gets you a movie ticket and a drink. So please attend that, and it'll be very interesting to see how and what they filmed here in Deerfield Beach. And last but not least, going way back to the beginning of our meeting, there was a member from the audience who spoke out about the garage sales, and I wasn't on the commission at that time. I'd like to just revisit the ordinance, see what was approved, which wasn't approved. I don't want to open a can of worms, but maybe there's something that can be less intrusive maybe than that was originally proposed. My understanding from listening to the resident, when you have a community garage sale, is it a garage sale? Is it a special event? I think that was the frustration that she was having, and there wasn't really any direction. So maybe if we can at least, beef up our definitions and give the residents some advice, so that when they are seeking some advice as to what constitutes a garage sale and what doesn't, then maybe there's a little more reference on the subject. So maybe if we can revisit that particular topic, I think that might serve us well. Other than that, I had some other things, but in the interest of time, I'll save them for the next meeting.
Thank you. Just a few things. First off, I want to really thank staff, Chris Morey, Rebecca Medina Stewart, Dave and Melissa out of Rebecca's office for doing a great job with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Realtors Association breakfast that we have. They blew everyone out of the water by far with what their presentation was. They had they had 2 computer monitors up with a video of everything that's happening in our city. They had another video of our underwater camera. They had more tchotchkes and gifts promoting our city to a room full of realtors. And I can tell you, every single city was embarrassed and put to shame by what they were able to do. So really an outstanding job. They got there early. They had the first table set up. They had the prime pole position, much to the chagrin of the host city. And they really did an outstanding job. And the city manager was there, and it was a really great outreach to reach out to not only other municipalities, but to reach out to the realtors regionally, because they have now merged. They're looking to merge with Palm Beach as well. So it was an outstanding way for us to go ahead and push our city. One of the things that was nice to hear back from realtors that were there, they actually approached us and said what a great job we were doing with our building department, and how they were very, very pleased with their interactions with our building department. So while we've heard some negative things, of course you're always going to hear that. I've heard now from multiple people that are developers and that are realtors out there, and that as far as dealing with our building department, it's been very positive feedback. With that, though, I would like to propose hosting a breakfast for local builders and contractors one weekend, hopefully coming up sometime over the summer, to get feedback on what our processes and our procedures are when it comes to our building department, so we can know where we can improve, what we're doing well, and what we need to keep doing. So that's something I'd like to propose to do, and host a breakfast to get that kind of feedback. The other thing I'd like to also do is do a commercial broker summit sometime in the fall, where we can talk about Pioneer Grove, DBR, and other areas of the city, so we can get some feedback from commercial brokers in our area as far as what we can do to help revitalize some areas that need it, and also look for some positive development in some of the areas that we have those opportunities. Like I said before, 20% of the privately owned undeveloped property in Broward County is in Deerfield Beach, and that gives us an excellent opportunity to move forward on some things. I do want to remind everyone on May 20th, this weekend coming up, we have the Ocean Brews and Blues Festival from 3 to 7 p.m. So wear your duds for some suds, so come on out for that. I do want to thank Kiwanis West for a very nice teacher appreciate. It was an intimate gathering, but it was a really nice event for them to put on it, and it was nice to see the majority of the commission who was able to attend be there. So thank you all for supporting that. That was great. We still have an issue with the tree stump that's out in front of Charm City Burger.
Yes.
Can we get an update on that?
Yes. Mayor Gann's CRA is in the process of having that, along with some other trees that we've identified to be replaced. I don't have an exact timeline for you tonight, but that's something certainly I can get for you tomorrow. And I'll include it in the weekly update for the City Commission as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Talking about the school board, because it was brought up before, what we're doing with Broward County School Board. And I know we're still trying to work to develop and putting a committee together. This is not something that we should shoot from the hip and run over there and shoot off our mouths at one of these meetings. I've talked with the school board representative for our area, as well as other members, and I've talked to some of the schools that are out there. And how we approach this is critical, but we need to be continuously and be prepared to put some serious pressure on the school board to make sure, as was stated before, that we get the funding that we need. We really need to improve our school grades here in the city of Deerfield Beach. That's one thing that we don't have a ton of control over, but we do have the ability to organize people and have our voice be heard, and that's something that we need to push and do. I will say this, that Nora Rupert was outstanding with some of her comments and some of her advice on how to approach these things, so I do want to offer her kudos on that. And just a couple more items. My Facebook page is about to debut, or it's done a soft opening and rollout for the Deerfield Beach Mayor Bill Gann's Facebook page. And again, as I've stated before, looking to do more of a social media outreach so we can put information out there, promote our city, inform the residents on some of the issues that we're having, seek feedback from the residents, and dispel some of the misinformation that sometimes gets floated around out there. And I do want to thank the residents who reported the gentleman who tore up Villages of Hillsborough Park over the weekend with his truck. There was an event in which we rented out a pavilion. They brought their park. Unfortunately, we had an issue with the gate. They were able to get inside with a pickup truck and do donuts in a way. They actually crammed glitter in the tailpipe, I believe, and spun around at a child's, at a
Baby reveal.
a gender reveal party. So they took it upon themselves to do about $500 worth of damage to Villages of Hillsborough Park. So I do want to thank all the residents who out there took video, took pictures, and actually stepped forward so we can catch the individual and try to make sure that we get reimbursed for that. So I do want to thank them. I also want to thank Deerfield Beach Elementary. Career Day a couple weeks ago. Amazing. Really great school, great teachers, and great kids. And I have to really commend city staff on that again. You want to talk about me looking stupid going in there. I thought I could come into the suit and talk about government. No one cared to listen to the mayor. They had airboats. They had ocean rescue. You had sanitation. They had the grapple truck. I walked in with a couple bumper stickers and a few business cards. Lamest guy in the room by far. So 4 classes, 20 kids a class, and they grilled me, and it was great. It was a great experience. Deerfield Beach Elementary is doing some wonderful things over there, and I have to give kudos to their teachers, their staff, and of course their children. And I believe I will shut up after that. So thank you for listening.
Mayor?
Yes.
The only thing I wanted to do is get your attention. The first thing you started out was praising Rebecca and her team, and she was outside, and she walked in after that, so I just wanted to say Rebecca. You praised her and she didn't hear it, so I just wanted to make sure she knew you did that.
We don't want our head to get too big, so.
Rebecca watched the video.
Yes.
And you
Thank
didn't
you.
have the hearse at Deerfield Beach Elementary.
No, we did not have to
Next
compete with
year.
that. But I will say, I do agree with you, Commissioner Battle. That was an outstanding event. Thank you for putting that together. That was really, really informative and well-received, and kudos to Dave Morantz on that. With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
If I-
Motion, anyone, all in favor, say aye. Any nays? Motion, meeting adjourned.
Just for the media, all the public workshops and the strategic planning will be at the Hillsborough Community Center, which is at the Tech Center. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. You're great. You know what, I forgot.
What are the dates of those? I got it this time.
Bill needs to know how to improvise. I did a mock election in mine, because I couldn't